Chapter 36-33. The sixth elder was only explaining for the sake of the Cheongchi tribe's reputation. Unfortunately, it would have been better if he did not explain. His explanation embarrassed the Cheongchi tribe even more. Moreover, the left protector had always been a man of few words. He was cold and emotionless. He immediately opened his eyes and glared at the sixth elder with a piercing gaze. The sixth elder trembled in fear. He immediately shut his mouth and shifted his gaze elsewhere. The four region leaders were not fools. When they understood the truth, they also knew that the Cheongchi tribe had been embarrassed. The left protector was burning with rage. Therefore, they spread out and used their powers to search for Ji Tianqing. They also said some things to ease the awkwardness. That damned little bastard. Just as clan leader Tao said, he is extremely cunning. Yes. We underestimated him. That's why he hid. Ha ha ha. That brat is still afraid of us. He doesn't dare to fight us head-on. That's why he is a coward. Everyone, let's work together and find that brat as soon as possible. We must tear him into pieces. On the surface, it sounded like they were discussing battle tactics. However, in reality, they were helping the four Cheongchi tribe to ease the awkwardness. This was effective. The left protector's gloomy expression eased. He closed his eyes and continued searching. Swoosh! Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Afterwards, the 8 god kings spread out and carefully searched every inch of space within a radius of 100,000 kilometers. It wasn't just the sky and the earth that they searched. They even used spatial magics to search the 3 inner and outer dimensions of the starry river. Unfortunately, after searching for a few minutes, they still did not find anything. They could faintly sense that there was a foreign divine power aura left in the air. It should be Long Tian's. However, no matter what they did, they could not find him. Obviously, Ji Tianqing had used the same trick again. He used the Armillary Heaven's secret technique and merged with the 200,000 miles of space. In other words, he was the 200,000 miles of space. This space was him. The 8 godly kings were right in front of him, but no one could find him. This should be the most advanced concealment technique, right? With Ji Tianqing's current strength, coupled with his profound attainments in the Muddy Heaven's secret technique, it was likely that only peak divine kings and God Emperor would be able to find clues. These 8 divine king powerhouses could not guess the answer even if they racked their brains. However, blindly hiding and evading was not Ji Tianqing's goal. The reason he'd concealed himself was because he still wasn't sure exactly how many God King experts were trying to kill him. What were the identities of these God King powerhouses? What were their strengths? Now, half an hour had passed. He eavesdropped on the conversation between the God Kings and roughly figured out the identities of the 8 God Kings. At the same time, he also clearly saw through the 8 divine king strength realms. He, who was the embodiment of heaven and earth, pondered silently in his mind, only 4 domain lords, vice-domain lords, and 4 Cheongchi race godly kings. Are there no other god kings lying in ambush here? He had already transformed into a world of 200,000 kilometers. Naturally, he could clearly sense that there were only these 8 god kings within 200,000 kilometers. In addition, there were 6 blood slaughter hall elites. They were all ant-like characters and were selectively ignored by him. If there were 2 ninth-degree realm god kings, perhaps I would have to put in some effort to kill some of them and then find a way to escape. Since there's only this little power, then I'll kindly accept it. Ha ha ha. After grasping the almost perfect devouring divine ability, these 8 god kings were no different from nourishment and divine power in Ji Tianqing's eyes. Very quickly, he began his silent hunting operation. The first person he targeted was the vice-domain lord of Ganyang region. This fellow was a middle-level god king with only the strength of a 5th-level god king. He was at the east of the battlefield, scouting the surrounding 30,000 kilometers alone. The closest people to him, Ganyang Region Lord and Cheongchi Race's 8th Elder, were 30,000 kilometers away. With a thought, Ji Tianqing appeared behind him out of thin air. The distance was less than 10,000 feet. He was concentrating on releasing his divine sense with all his might to scout the alternate space around him. Ji Tianqing's sudden appearance brought about a very weak and almost imperceptible spatial fluctuation. Because the distance was too close, he still sensed the abnormality and subconsciously turned around to swing his sword. Unfortunately, he was still one step too slow. Swoosh! Ji Tianqing had already raised the sword of burial of heaven and pierced out a cold golden light. Then it disappeared and returned to heaven and earth. He was very confident in this sword. This was one of his Sword Dao divine abilities, Daylight Sword. The Vice Domain Lord of Ganyang region only saw a sesame-sized cold light expand thousands of times in front of him. In the next moment, he was swallowed by the sword light that was as dazzling as the sun. Bang! In the deafening loud noise, the Daylight Sword, which was like a scorching sun and a shooting star, smashed the Vice Domain Lord of Ganyang region into pieces. Countless fragments of divine light burst out. He was like ice and snow under the scorching sun. His divine body collapsed and quickly melted away. Only the toughest divine spark was not melted by the ice and snow. It was blasted into more than 20 pieces and fell from the sky. The soft armor he wore, the divine sword he held, and the specially made robe were all shattered and twisted. Countless fragments fell from the sky. Only the interspatial ring was the least damaged. It was still intact and fell from the sky. Before the fragments fell from the sky, the Vice Domain Lord of Ganyang region and the 8th Elder of the Cheongchi tribe 30,000 miles away sensed something unusual and turned their heads to look at the scene of the incident. When they saw the Vice Domain Lord of Ganyang region explode and shatter into pieces, their eyes widened and their faces were filled with shock. Damn bastard! How dare he launch a sneak attack? And he killed him in one move? Even if he was slightly weaker, he was still a 5th-level divine king. How could he be killed in one move before he could warn or escape? These thoughts flashed through their minds at the same time. They were both very shocked. In the next moment, the two divine kings realized what had happened. They immediately felt scared and became very vigilant. Since that kid had launched a sneak attack and killed a divine king, it was very likely that one of them would be next. Almost at the same time when the two of them had this thought, behind the 8th Elder, a figure silently appeared. He was wearing a white robe and was tall and sturdy. There was a dragon horn on his forehead and golden dragon scales on the surface of his body. There was no doubt that it was Ji Tianqing. The 8th Elder was only a god king in the 6th degree realm. In terms of strength and realm, he was slightly higher than Ji Tianqing. But in terms of combat power, even 10 of him would not be enough to kill Ji Tianqing. Swoosh! Ji Tianqing appeared in a flash and stabbed with his sword again. He quickly disappeared and returned to heaven and earth. He was very confident in this sword and did not give the 8th Elder a chance to counterattack or dodge. The reason why he appeared for a moment and hid in heaven and earth after stabbing with his sword was that he did not want to expose more information and let the other divine kings see through him. Chapter 36-34. Although the 8th Elder was very vigilant and noticed the space ripple behind him in time, he instantly realized that Long Tian had attacked him. At this moment, his nerves were stretched to the limit, and his divine power was also unleashed to the maximum. Without any hesitation, he immediately used space diversion to move 1,000 miles to avoid Long Tian's attack. However, when he used space diversion, he realized that the surrounding space had been sealed. It was sealed off by the 30-meter-long sword light that was so condensed that it seemed to be solid. After all, the sword ray contained more than 200 divine Dao laws and released terrifying sword energy, pressure, and space divine power. It's over. When the 8th Elder failed to teleport, this word flashed through his mind, and his eyes were filled with despair. Even if he swung his sword in time, unleashed all his power, and used his divine power to counterattack, it was already too late. The failure of teleportation delayed him by 1/3 of an instant, which determined his death. It couldn't be helped. The outcome of a battle between godly king experts was usually decided in an instant. The eighth elder was still in the posture of swinging his sword, and his divine sword was emitting a 300-meter-long sword ray. Boom! Unfortunately, before his divine sword could swing, the 30-meter-long golden sword ray pierced his head. The golden sword light did not seem to be huge, nor did it have a heaven-shaking might. However, it was indestructible and could destroy everything. Boom! Crack! The eighth elder's protective divine light collapsed in an instant, and his head exploded in an instant, turning into fragments and blood that scattered in the sky. Of course, his godhead was also shattered into pieces by the golden sword and scattered from the sky. The eighth elder died just like that. He was also killed in one hit. The headless corpse fell from the sky, spraying divine blood. At this moment, the Deputy Region Master of Ganyang Region's Godhead fragments, armor, divine artifact fragments, and his interspatial ring fell to the ground. A faint fluctuation flashed through the seemingly ruined and scorched earth. The Godhead fragments and interspatial ring that fell into the ruins were swallowed by the earth and disappeared. The next moment, these items all went into Ji Tianqing's interspatial ring. The Region Master of Ganyang Region witnessed the Deputy Region Master and the eighth elder being killed in one hit. He was scared out of his wits, and his face turned ashen. The Deputy Region Master's strength was lower than his, so it was fine that he was killed by Long Tian in one move. However, the eighth elder's strength was similar to his, so he couldn't escape the fate of being killed in one move. Didn't this mean that if Long Tian had made a move against him earlier, he would be the one to perish now? The most terrifying thing was that Long Tian had launched 2 sneak attacks in a flash. Until now, Governor Gan Yang could only see Long Tian's figure and a rough outline of his face. He couldn't even see Long Tian's face and expression clearly. Not to mention the information about Long Tian's strength, realm, and the way he attacked. Terrifying. It was too terrifying. We all underestimated him. No wonder he would be hunted down by the Tao Tai clan, and even Patriarch Tao couldn't do anything to him. I can't get involved in this mess anymore. Otherwise, I won't be able to keep my life. As these thoughts flashed through his mind, Protectorate Master Gan Yang fled toward the north without looking back. He unleashed all of his divine power and raised his speed to the limit. After 2 godly kings were killed by Ji Tianqing in a row, the 4 godly kings within 70,000 miles all sensed that something was wrong. The 6th elder and 7th elder of the Cheongqi clan, as well as the Region Master and Deputy Region Master of the Clear Sky Domain, all used their divine senses to investigate the general situation. Although they didn't witness the death of the 2 godly kings with their own eyes, they knew that something had happened. Long Tian, who was hiding in the dark, launched a sneak attack and killed 2 godly kings in a row. Immediately, the 4 godly kings were abnormally vigilant, and their hearts were in their mouths. They immediately rushed toward the scene of the incident and spontaneously gathered together. Everyone had the same thought: it was easy to be ambushed if they were alone, so it was safer to gather together. Of course, the 6th elder and 7th elder didn't forget to send a message to the left protector while they were flying. The left protector was the strongest and the most confident. He had already flown 100,000 miles away to expand the search area. Just as the 4 elders were frantically rushing, their divine senses detected that Protectorate Master Gan Yang, who was fleeing for his life, was also in a tragedy. Swoosh! Right in front of him, a spatial fluctuation flashed, and a figure appeared out of thin air. White robe, black hair, handsome and heroic, shining with golden light, sacred and dignified. If it were any other day, this dragon youth would be worthy of such an evaluation. But at this moment, in Protectorate Master Gan Yang's eyes, this guy was a ferocious and terrifying demon. Long Tian actually didn't launch a sneak attack from behind. Instead, he appeared in front of him openly and waved his sword to kill him. This undoubtedly showed that Long Tian was very strong and had enough confidence to quickly finish him off. But Protectorate Master Gan Yang had long been terrified. The moment he saw Ji Tianqing appear, he didn't hesitate to adjust his direction and teleport to the left to escape. What made everyone even more speechless was that while he was teleporting to escape, he didn't forget to shout, "Sir, please spare my life. We have no enmity between us. I won't be your enemy anymore. I'll retreat now." But it was a pity. Before Protectorate Master Gan Yang could finish his words, his teleportation was interrupted. That's right. It was his teleportation that was interrupted. At the same time he used his teleportation ability, Ji Tianqing's left hand grabbed at him and clenched hard. Suddenly, the space laws descended and sealed the space within 1,000 miles. Moreover, terrifying space divine power erupted, crushing and shattering the space within 1,000 miles. Kacha kacha. With a crisp cracking sound, the space within 1,000 miles completely collapsed and became chaotic. Protectorate Master Gan Yang's teleportation was forcibly interrupted, and he immediately suffered a backlash. His face was pale, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The divine power in his body was chaotic, and his mind was also affected. His consciousness was a little blurry. And his heart was filled with horror and fear. It's too terrifying. He actually used the space laws to crush the space within 1,000 miles. I've already begged for mercy, but he still wants to kill me. Governor Gan Yang knew very well that only 8th or 9th heaven realm upper divine kings could cultivate the law of space to such a level and possess such terrifying divine power to crush the space forcefully. Unfortunately, he just wanted to do the Taotai clan a favor and cozy up to them, but he encountered such a terrifying guy. He was so unlucky. If he had known that the treacherous brat that Tao Yongxing said was actually such a terrifying big shot, he would not have participated in this matter even if he was beaten to death. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Swoosh! Ji Tianqing raised his right hand, and the sword of burial of heaven lit up with golden light again. He slashed at Protectorate Master Gan Yang across the air. Bam! Another muffled explosion resounded through the sky. Protectorate Master Gan Yang used the last of his strength to condense a divine light shield and raise the divine saber above his head to block, but it was still cut in half by the giant sword. Divine light splashed, and blood splattered. The two halves of the corpse fell from the sky, and more than 20 pieces of divine spark fragments fluttered like butterflies. Ji Tianqing's figure disappeared again and merged with heaven and earth. Now, he had a deeper understanding of the armillary sphere secret technique. Not only did he use it as the strongest defense and concealment technique, but he also used it for assassination and teleportation. Chapter 36-35. 3 godly kings were killed in a row, all in one move. The 4 godly kings who rushed over to help all witnessed the process of Domain Lord Gan Yang's death with their consciousness. While they were shocked by Long Tian's strength and methods, they also understood one thing. Long Tian was ruthless. Even if Domain Lord Gan Yang admitted defeat and fled, even if he gave up his dignity and begged for mercy, he still couldn't escape death. This meant that he would not let go of anyone who participated in this assassination plan and attempted to kill Long Tian. The pressure on the 4 godly kings immediately increased. They felt a chill run down their backs, and their eyes became extremely solemn. It seems that today will be the end of a fight to the death. There's no possibility of reconciliation. That kid disappeared again. I think I know what his invisibility is all about. Oh. Tell me, how did he do it? The 4 godly kings quickly gathered and rushed to the place where Domain Lord Gan Yang was killed when they were thousands of miles away. Along the way, the godly kings communicated with each other through voice transmission. Cheongchi clan's 7th elder's words piqued the interest of 6th elder, Clear Sky Domain Lord, and Deputy Domain Lord. They were full of anticipation. 7th elder frowned and thought for a moment. Then, he said to everyone in a low and cautious voice, "We searched everywhere within 100,000 miles and even the alternate dimensions, but we couldn't find him. However, his aura is everywhere." What does this mean? It means that he's in this world, but he's in a different way. That's why we can't find him. Clearsky Domain Master was a very qualified supporting actor. She hurriedly asked, "7th elder, in what way does he exist?" 7th elder pointed at the ground under his feet and said meaningfully, "We searched the sky, the earth, and the alternate dimensions, but we missed one thing. Perhaps the land within a radius of 100,000 miles was transformed by him." His words awakened the dreamer. The other three were shocked, and then showed complicated expressions. 6th elder didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He muttered with a stifled expression, "Even if he used Earth-type abilities, it's very difficult to do that, right? Moreover, the battle just now destroyed everything within a radius of 20 to 30,000 miles. If he really transformed into the Earth, wouldn't he have been seriously injured?" The Clear Sky Territory Master revealed a look of sudden realization and nodded repeatedly. 7th elder is wise. This is very likely the truth. The position of the Deputy Region Master was slightly lower, so he was not in a position to play the supporting role. He did not have the guts to question him, so he could only reveal a thoughtful expression. The 7th elder's face was expressionless, but his eyes were firm as he said, "Although this conjecture sounds a little ridiculous, this is the only answer. As for the specifics, the truth will be revealed once the left protector catches that brat." As the four of them talked, they had already arrived at the place where Protector Gan Yang was killed. Unfortunately, Ji Tianqing had long disappeared. Domain Lord Gan Yang's Godhead fragment and spatial ring had long since fallen to the ground and been devoured by the earth. The four divine kings stopped in the sky and stood back to back. They formed a battle formation and vigilantly watched their surroundings. "That brat is hiding again. We can't split up. We must maintain our formation and prevent him from launching another sneak attack." "That's right. Although we can't prove that the brat has turned into the earth, it is true that he appears and disappears unpredictably. We must guard against him strictly. Everyone, please wait patiently. I have already sent a message to the left protector. He will soon join us." When that time comes, the four divine kings looked as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Their nerves were tense and their postures were very vigilant. They probably felt that this was a little funny and humiliating. Therefore, the two elders and the Clear Sky Territory Master said some self-comforting and self-justifying words. After all, they were all honorable upper divine kings and region masters. They had always been high and mighty, reserved and arrogant. Now that they were scared to this extent by Ji Tianqing, it was really embarrassing. However, before the 6th elder could finish speaking, a dazzling divine light suddenly lit up 70 to 80,000 miles away. A pillar of light shot up into the sky. Everyone's heartstrings had been stretched taut. They were suddenly a little stunned by this sudden change. "Over there. What's going on?" the 7th elder asked subconsciously, looking a little confused. The Clear Sky Territory Master frowned and said in a low voice with an ugly expression, "It seems that someone is fighting." He could only vaguely see the divine light shining in the sky. He wanted to use his divine sense to investigate, but it was beyond the range of his divine sense. The Deputy Region Master simply shut his mouth. He was the weakest and had no right to speak. The 6th elder suddenly thought of something and his expression changed drastically. He let out a cry of surprise. "Oh my God! That damned bastard actually went to sneak attack the left protector." As soon as he said this, the other three were dumbfounded. "What? That guy was here just now." In the blink of an eye, he ran 70 to 80,000 miles away. How is this possible? Even if it's teleportation, it can't be so fast, right? Even if there is such a fast teleportation, there must be divine light and spatial fluctuations. Is that guy crazy? The left protector is an 8th stage upper divine king. How dare he sneak attack him? Although the 4 divine kings had listed Ji Tianqing as the most dangerous enemy and overestimated his strength. But he suddenly appeared 70,000 miles away and attacked the left protector. It was hard to believe and they were filled with shock. After being stunned for a moment, the 6th elder calmed down and shouted with a gloomy face, "Don't just stand there. Let's go and help the left protector to kill that guy." This suggestion received the support of the 3 divine kings. The 4 of them hurried towards the northwest to help the left protector as fast as they could. In fact, the 6th elder's guess was completely correct. After Ji Tianqing killed 3 divine kings consecutively, of course he would continue to sneak attack the remaining 5 divine kings. However, the 6th elder, the 7th elder, the Clear Sky Region Master and the Deputy Region Master were very shameless and gathered together. The 4 of them formed a battle formation, as if they were facing a great enemy. This gave Ji Tianqing a headache. If he fought the 4 of them head-on, he could use all kinds of remarkable skills and trump cards to kill all 4 of them. But in that case, he would expose himself and leak more information. Moreover, it would delay time. Therefore, he decisively changed his target and locked onto the lone divine king 80,000 miles away in the northwest. The left protector of the Cheongqi clan. This was an 8th stage upper divine king who had cultivated for over 20,000 years. He was a veteran divine king with profound skills. So he was very confident and dared to search around alone. He was not worried about his own safety at all. He was even worried that he could not find Long Tian and could not wait for Long Tian to assassinate him. But in Ji Tianqing's eyes, the left protector was not much different from the 4 divine kings. Whoever was left alone would be his target. Just like that, Ji Tianqing used the spherical heaven secret technique and appeared 80,000 miles away and decisively attacked the left protector. Chapter 36:36. When Ji Tianqing appeared out of thin air and attacked from behind, the left protector was overjoyed. "Ha ha ha. I was looking for you everywhere. I didn't expect you to walk right into my trap." The left protector received a message from the 6th elder and knew that Ji Tianqing had already killed 3 god kings. Therefore, when the space behind him rippled and a dazzling sword light lit up, he didn't even need to turn around to know that Ji Tianqing had attacked. His face was filled with mockery as he sneered. He took the opportunity to use his ultimate skill and slashed his sword behind him. Hellfire explosion. The left protector roared angrily as his body swelled up. His entire body lit up with a blood-red light. He held a blood-red heavy sword that was more than 10 feet long with both hands and swung it forward. In an instant, boundless hellfire explosion surged out from the heavy sword that was as wide as a bench and covered the sky. Everything within tens of thousands of miles was lit up by the dazzling fire. With the left protector as the center, everything within tens of thousands of miles around him became the domain of hellfire explosion. The dark purple sea of fire surged as if it could burn everything in the world. Bam! 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 The dazzling golden sword light that was more than 1,000 feet long collided with the hellfire explosion that was more than 10,000 feet long. An earth-shattering boom erupted. The left protector was very confident in his ultimate skill. However, the result caused him to be filled with shock, and he revealed an expression as if he had seen a ghost. The hellfire explosion that was more than 10,000 feet long was actually shattered into pieces by the golden sword light and exploded in all directions. However, the power of the golden sword light didn't weaken much as it continued to slash toward him. Bang! The left protector frowned and shouted coldly. He held the blood-red heavy sword in front of him with both hands. The wide heavy sword that was more than 10 feet long emitted an endless amount of blood-red light that turned into a thick and solid divine light barrier. Bam! The huge golden sword and the divine light barrier collided and exploded with a dull boom. Then, both of them collapsed at the same time and exploded into millions of divine light fragments. Crack! Along with the crisp sound of the explosion, the terrifying impact sent the left protector flying backward. He tumbled high up in the sky, his face twisted and ferocious, purple divine blood spurting out from his mouth and nose. Only after flying for more than 200 miles did he manage to neutralize the terrifying impact and stabilize himself. Damn it! That kid's strength is actually so strong. The left protector hurriedly circulated his martial arts to regulate his breathing and suppress the injuries of his internal organs. His face was full of fear as he let out a low cry. Previously, when the clan leader assigned him to carry out this mission, he did not tell him that this dragon clan youth's strength was so terrifying. If he had known this would happen, he would not have underestimated the enemy and brought only 3 elders with him. Before they set off, he and the other elders were still discussing and mocking the Taotai clan for being trash who couldn't even kill a young man from the dragon clan. Now, he finally understood the reason. However, he wasn't happy at all. He even regretted it. Just as these thoughts flashed through the left protector's mind, she had already lost track of Ji Tianqing in the surging hellfire sea. In the next moment, he appeared behind the left protector and brandished his sword to use his ultimate killing move. Sword of Destruction. Ji Tianqing shouted coldly. His left hand formed a sword sign and his right hand held the Burial of Heaven sword. He stabbed with all his might. He had absorbed 2 portions of the world power and released it through the amplification of his sword principle superpower. Suddenly, a dazzling golden sword that was as long as 1,000 feet engulfed the left protector's body. The left protector's eyes widened. He was filled with fear and despair. He had tried to teleport to escape, and he had also thought of teleporting to dodge, but it was useless. When the golden sword radiance appeared, the area within a radius of 10,000 miles was sealed by an invisible power of the rules of nature. Even if he used all his strength, he couldn't break free from the restraint of space. He couldn't escape or dodge at all. He could only choose to block and take the blow head-on. My life is over. The left protector exclaimed in his heart. He held the blood-red sword with both hands and slashed with all his strength. Ancient sky-splitting slash. The left protector roared. The blood-red sword in his hand burned like lava and became crystal clear. It released a crescent-shaped sword radiance that was 10,000 feet long. This sword strike similarly contained his lifetime's worth of divine energy and over 200 types of divine Tao laws. This was his trump card, one of his strongest killing moves. Kaboom! The 2 sword radiances, one golden and one red, clashed together with a loud sound that shook the sky. The blood-red sword radiance that was 10,000 feet long was cut in half by the golden sword. It shattered into dozens of pieces and scattered in the sky. Meanwhile, the golden sword of destruction didn't slow down at all. It struck the left protector again. Crack! Compared to the collision of the 2 sword radiances, this sound was insignificant. The left custodian's protective godly light, his armor, and his indestructible, godly body instantly shattered like ice or mirrors. His body exploded into pieces on the spot, mixing with the purple rain of blood. Pieces of armor and robes splashed down from the sky. Only his godhead was preserved. He took advantage of the chaos to escape through the rain of blood and fled north in panic. The destruction of the god body was, of course, a terrible wound and ending. However, if he could preserve his godhead, there was still a chance for him to rise again. Therefore, the left protector didn't waste any time to threaten or care about the other 4 divine kings. There was only one word in his mind. Run! Unfortunately, Ji Tianqing was able to destroy his divine body in 2 moves, so how could he possibly allow his divine core to escape? He. I went to such great lengths just to obtain your godhead. If I let your godhead escape, wouldn't I have suffered a great loss? The left protector's godhead had just fled 8,000 miles when Ji Tianqing's cold laughter sounded beside it. He was instantly peerlessly terrified. His godhead trembled, and he let out a sorrowful and indignant roar. Get lost! If you kill all of us, the Qiongqi tribe won't forgive you. As he roared, the left protector didn't hesitate to use 5,000 years of power and burn more than 40 types of divine Tao laws to use a forbidden divine ability. Instantly, his godhead ignited with a bloody flame, and his divine power aura increased by 5 times. His escape speed increased several times, reaching the speed of light as he fled north. Normally, when god monarchs flew, they were said to be as fast as lightning or as fast as the aurora, but that was only to describe their speed. However, the left protector's situation was different. He had truly reached the speed of light. To be honest, this speed was extremely terrifying. Even if Ji Tianqing unleashed all his power and used all his trump cards, he wouldn't be able to reach the speed of light. In the next instant, he would be left behind by the left protector, and then he wouldn't be able to catch up. See, the left protector's desire to live was so strong. He erupted with a speed that even he couldn't believe. At the same time, he had reached his limit. Although this power and speed could only last for an instant, it was enough for him to escape hundreds of thousands of miles. Chapter 36-37. The left guardian had paid a terrible price. This forbidden ability not only consumed 5,000 years of his cultivation, it also burned 40 over types of God Tao laws. The most important thing was that after casting the technique, his power would weaken until he fainted. But to be able to escape from Long Tian's evil clutches and successfully survive, it was worth it no matter what price he had to pay. That was what the left protector thought when she fled at the speed of light. However, his thoughts had yet to end when a scene that made him lose all hope appeared. The sky around the godhead had unknowingly started to distort and fold. What was more terrifying was that in the distorted sky, a dazzling white light appeared and actually formed a blazing white wall with a radius of 100,000 miles. That was a forcefully condensed space barrier using space laws. This was too much. Bam! Without a doubt, the left guardian's godhead crashed fiercely against the blazing white wall. A muffled sound exploded and reverberated through the sky. The blazing white space barrier also shook violently from his collision and exploded with intense space fluctuations. The speed of the left guardian's godhead was too fast. That was the speed of light. But he crashed against the space barrier at the speed of light. The result was obvious. Kacha, his godhead was smashed into pieces, and numerous cracks appeared on its surface. Suffering such a heavy injury, the left guardian's consciousness became hazy and he gradually fell into a coma. Before he fell into a coma, his heart was filled with unwillingness and there was only one thought in his mind. Why? Why did it turn out like this? He had obviously paid a huge price and sacrifice to reach the speed of light which only peak god kings could reach, so why did he still fail? The space within a radius of 100,000 miles was sealed and solidified, and even forcefully formed into a space barrier. Could it be that Long Tian's control of space laws had reached such a terrifying level? Then, the left guardian's consciousness fell into darkness and he completely fell into a coma. Swoosh! The blood-red godhead, which was full of cracks, dimmed and fell from the sky. At this moment, Ji Tianqing used the turbid heaven secret skill to move close to 100,000 miles and rushed to the side of the godhead. He waved his hand and the cracked godhead entered his hand. You're a Qiongqi clan senior after all. Even if you're only in the 8th stage realm, you can't be underestimated. Luckily, I had a trick up my sleeve. You almost got away. Ji Tianqing looked at the godhead in his hand and muttered to himself. After this battle, he also clearly understood the extent of his combat strength. He should be at the peak of the 8th heaven of King God realm. God Kings below the 8th level were basically insta-killed. Even an ordinary 8th stage realm God King could be easily killed. As for veteran God Kings like the Left Protector, they possessed great heritage and many trump cards. It would take some effort to slay them. Even if he met a 9th stage realm God King, he should be able to maintain an undefeated record, right? At least he wouldn't be injured by a 9th stage realm God King like in the past. Ji Tianqing collected his thoughts and crushed the divinity of the Left Protector and put it into his spatial ring. Then, he found the Left Protector's spatial ring and put it into the ring as well. After doing all this, he glanced at the sky in the south. With a wave of his hand, he removed the spatial barrier within a radius of 100,000 miles. His figure returned to heaven and earth. 100,000 kilometers to the south. The 6th Elder, the 7th Elder, the Clear Sky Region Ruler, and the Vice Region Ruler were all rushing forward excitedly. Earlier they saw a blood ray and fire ray soaring into the sky in the northern sky. It should be the battle between the Left Protector and Long Tian. They rushed over as fast as they could to provide support, but they discovered something strange on the way. The location where the blood ray and sword ray appeared was actually moving towards the north. This meant that one of them was fleeing while the other was chasing after them. The 4 God Kings immediately concluded that Long Tian was escaping in a sorry state and the Left Protector was chasing after him. Other than this result, there was absolutely no other possibility. After all, the Left Protector's skills were profound and he was powerful with many tricks up his sleeves. They must hurry over and assist the Left Protector to kill Long Tian so that they could gain some credit. If they were late, they could only clean up the battlefield. As a result, the 4 God Kings rushed over as fast as they could as they let down their guard and forgot to maintain their formation. The 4 of them had different abilities, so the speed at which they rushed over was different. 6th Elder and 7th Elder had the strongest abilities, so they flew at the front. The second strongest was Clear Sky Domain Master, who was 5,000 miles behind them. Deputy Clear Sky Domain Master, who was the weakest, was at the back of the group and was 8,000 miles away from Clear Sky Domain Master. After Ji Tianqing returned to heaven and earth, he transformed into a 200,000-mile world. Everything in this area was under his watch and supervision. Seeing the 4 God Kings' postures and expressions, he immediately understood what was going on. They probably think the Left Protector is chasing after me and want to gain some credit and benefits. He sneered in his heart and teleported 50,000 miles, appearing behind 6th Elder and 7th Elder out of thin air. Absolute shadows of the 10 directions. In order to end the battle quickly, Ji Tianqing shouted coldly and used his trump card. Golden light flickered all over his body as 5 figures appeared in the sky around him. They were all identical to him. The 6 heavenly dragons were all handsome and mighty. They wielded the Heaven Burier sword, but they executed different supreme sword techniques. 7-star sword. Heaven Cleaving sword. Heaven Piercing sword. Heavenly Dragon Proud Slash. The 6 Long Tians were scattered in the sky, forming an encirclement of 20,000 miles. This encirclement was neither big nor small, just enough to envelop 6th Elder, 7th Elder, Clear Sky Domain Master, and Deputy Domain Master. Immediately after, dozens of dazzling sword lights with Supreme Divine Might rained down like floodwaters and drowned the 4 God Kings. The 4 God Kings were imagining how the Left Protector would trample on Long Tian and how Long Tian would be beaten up miserably. How could they guard against the sudden appearance of 6 Long Tians and the incomparably valiant attacks? This was not a sneak attack at all. It was a completely open encirclement. No, this was not the main point. Long Tian. How is he still alive? This is impossible. Wasn't he being chased by the Left Protector and his life was at stake? Long Tian is actually safe and sound, and there are 6 of him. Our eyes must be playing tricks on us. We must be hallucinating. Could it be that the Left Protector has already died? When the sword lights descended, the 4 god kings were dumbfounded. They looked terrified and hopeless. The next moment, the sword lights drowned their figures. Bam! 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 Boom! 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 Kaboom! Kaboom! A wave of earth-shattering, deafening, and heaven-shaking explosions resounded endlessly in the heavens and the earth. Divine light flashed. In the chaotic sky, the 4 god kings were cut into pieces on the spot. Not even their corpses were left. Their bodies were minced into pieces. Blood rained down from the sky along with fragments of divine weapons and armor. As for their godheads, they were also chopped into pieces and scattered all over the ruined land. After a short while, peace was restored. The interception plan had come to an end. Chapter 36-38. After leaving the battlefield, Ji Tianqing continued to head north. Next, he had to cross the Ganyang region and another 8 regions before reaching the northern border of the Starsource continent. At that time, he would head to the Golden Rock clan's 9 mystical paradise to pay a visit to the Golden Rock Old Ancestor. Swoosh! The burial of Heaven's sword was still speeding through the clouds while Ji Tianqing stayed in the sword world and entered the divine pagoda to deal with the spoils of war. The battle just now sounded very long, but it actually only took a quarter of an hour. Ji Tianqing had killed 8 god king powerhouses and instantly killed 18 god lord realm elites of the blood slaughter hall. His harvest was bountiful. Those god monarch realm elites of the blood slaughter hall had nothing to say. Ji Tianqing didn't care about their godhead fragments. After all, even if he spent time refining them, he wouldn't obtain many god Dao laws and couldn't absorb much god power. There was no other way, he was already a peak 5th degree god king. Only the godhead shards of middle god kings and high god kings were effective against him. Even if it was a lower divine king's divine spark fragment, the effect it could have was also limited. It was better than nothing. In the distorted space, Ji Tianqing sat cross-legged under the blood flame sacred tree and began to count the spoils of war. First was the interspatial rings of the 18 blood slaughter hall elites. These experts were all elites of the Cheongqi clan. Although they weren't too rich, they were still much richer than ordinary upper god kings. Ji Tianqing sorted out the cultivation resources in the 18 rings and put them all into his own interspatial ring. Roughly estimating, he obtained about 200 billion god stones worth of resources. Of course, there weren't any king-grade god artifacts or resources. Most of them were god monarch grade. Ji Tianqing put the 200 billion god stones aside for Wushuang, Bai Long, Hei Long, Qianyu, Lin Shui, and others. Then, he began to check the interspatial rings of the 8 god kings. These god king experts were either elders of the Cheongqi clan or domain lords of the Clear Sky and Ganyang regions. Basically, they were all people with great power and authority. Their wealth naturally far exceeded ordinary god kings. Ji Tianqing spent half a day to organize the 8 spatial rings. He had obtained a huge amount of cultivation resources, a large number of king-grade materials, pills, divine artifacts, and treasures. The value of these resources was hard to estimate. But a conservative estimate would put the combined wealth of the 8 godly kings at close to 2 trillion. In addition to the resources and wealth in his interspatial ring, his current wealth was close to 3 trillion. As the saying goes, a horse won't get fat without feeding at night, and a man won't get rich without a windfall. With this windfall, it's enough for me to cultivate to the high-level God-King realm and support everyone to cultivate to the God-King realm. Ji Tianqing put away the interspatial ring and revealed a satisfied smile. With a large amount of king-grade treasures and resources, he could push Wushuang, White Dragon, Lin Shui, and the others to the King God realm. Moreover, these people's talents and aptitudes were originally 1 in a million geniuses. In addition, it was worth mentioning that he had obtained many king-grade materials for forging weapons, refining pills, and setting up formations from the space rings of the 8 divine kings. Fortunately, among these materials, there were herbs that he urgently needed to refine the 9-turn-stellar elixir. Now, he had the Star Eater flower, 9 sets of supplementary materials, and 17 sets of herbs. He could finally start refining the 9-turn-stellar elixir. However, Ji Tianqing was not in a hurry to refine the elixir. First, he meditated for a while. When his divine power and mental state had recovered, he took out the godhead fragments of the 8 godly kings. "I'll refine their godheads first, then focus on refining the 9-turn-stellar elixir. If I can successfully break through to the 6th level of the divine king realm, the success rate of refining the 9-turn-stellar elixir should be 95%. After all, the 9-turn-stellar elixir was a high-grade king-grade divine elixir. It was the rarest and most precious type. Moreover, the refining method was extremely complicated. The energy and mental energy consumed was several times more than other similar elixirs. It was difficult for an ordinary high-level god king to refine it successfully. With Ji Tianqing's current strength, he only had an 80% chance of success. As the materials were hard to find, he did not want to take the risk. He would rather raise his strength first. Swoosh! Soon, he grabbed a handful of godhead fragments in each hand and used the engulfing divine power to refine them. White light appeared in his palms and formed a white light vortex. It gradually devoured the energy of the godhead fragments. Dazzling 5 colors divine light surged out of the godhead fragments and was absorbed into his body. Next, he used the power of the heaven-mending orb to refine the 5 colors divine light. When the 5 colors divine light turned into pure divine power, he would truly absorb it for his own use. It had only been 4 hours since Ji Tianqing killed the 8 godly kings. At this moment, in the star-cloud city of the Cheongqi tribe in the Nebula Cave. In a dazzling gray palace filled with the vicissitudes of ancient times. The guardian spirit, who was in charge of guarding the spirit temple, rushed into the main hall with a pale face. Tribe leader. Tribe leader, something bad has happened. Stumbling into the great hall, the spirit protector cried out sorrowfully before he even saw the Cheongqi clan leader. The dozen or so guards who were guarding the hall all looked at each other. They frowned at the same time and revealed doubtful expressions. In their eyes, the guardian spirit guarding the spirit temple was a very leisurely job. He basically did not show his face. Even if something happened, it had nothing to do with the spirit temple. How could the spirit protector be like this? What in the world happened? Soon, the guard captain stopped the guardian spirit and asked about the situation. What's the commotion? Be careful of your head if you disturb the Lord's cultivation. The guard captain angrily glared at the spirit protector and coldly shouted in an unfriendly tone. The guardian spirit did not have a high status and did not have any real power. No one was afraid of him. The spirit protector took a few deep breaths and said with a pale face, "Quickly take me to see the patriarch. I have an important matter to report." Ha ha ha. Something important? Could it be that the sky has fallen? The guard captain sneered disapprovingly. However, he still brought the guardian spirit to the Cheongqi tribe leader's study. Not long later, the guardian spirit saw the Cheongqi tribe leader resting with his eyes closed in the messy and old study. The Cheongqi tribe leader had a rough personality. He did not like reading, nor did he like music, chess, calligraphy, or painting. The study in the palace was just for decoration. He usually slept in the study with his eyes closed. Who knew how many precious ancient books he used as a pillow? The Cheongqi tribe leader was woken up by the guardian spirit and frowned unhappily. He asked sternly, "What's made you so flustered? Has your ancestral grave been dug up?" The spirit protector took a deep breath and suppressed the panic and anxiety in his heart. After his aura stabilized, he bowed and reported in a low voice, "Patriarch, the soul spirit tablets of the left custodian, the sixth elder, the seventh elder, and the eighth elder are all broken. What? The Cheongchi tribe leader's eyes widened and he jumped up from his chair. Chapter 36-39. The left guardian and the three elders' divine spirit tablets are all broken. Xue Shang, the leader of the Cheongchi clan, glared at the spirit protector and roared with a twisted face. An invisible pressure burst out from his body and enveloped half of the palace. Immediately, the spirit protector was intimidated by the powerful divine aura and fell to the ground with a plop, his body trembling uncontrollably. Even the guards around the study were shrouded by the terrifying pressure and knelt on one knee, not daring to raise their heads. Xue Shang's roar was so loud that half of the palace heard it. At the same time, everyone understood what it meant for the divine spirit tablets to be broken. Every member of the Cheongchi clan had a divine spirit tablet, which was kept in the spirit temple and guarded by the spirit protector. No matter where the Cheongchi clan was, once they died, the corresponding divine spirit tablet would be broken. The reason for this was that the Cheongchi clan's bloodline was thin and there were only close to 10,000 of them. To the leader of the Cheongchi clan, the life of every member was very important. But now, the powerful left guardian and the three elders had died at the same time. This news was no less than a bolt from the blue. There was dead silence in the study. After a long time, Xue Shang came back to his senses. He frowned and asked fiercely, "When did this happen?" The spirit protector trembled on the ground and replied with a trembling voice, 4 hours ago, bastard. Why did you only report what happened 4 hours ago now? Xue Shang roared furiously and raised his foot to kick the spirit protector. The spirit protector was kicked and rolled a dozen times. He crashed into the wall and rolled in the ruins, blood spurting out of his mouth and nose. But he didn't dare to heal himself. He quickly climbed out of the ruins and returned to Xue Shang. Blood flowed out of his mouth and he replied in a hoarse voice, "Leader, please calm down, this is too shocking. I wasn't sure, so I used a spell to check several times." At the same time, there were 18 divine spirit tablets broken, all of them were elites of the blood slaughter hall. One could imagine how dumbfounded the spirit protector had been 4 hours ago when he saw the 22 spirit tablets shatter. This kind of thing had not happened for hundreds of years. It was as if there was something wrong with the spirit tablet. He was filled with fear. He didn't dare to be sure, and he didn't dare to report the news himself. He could only cast the spell over and over again, using various methods to check the spirit tablet to see if there were any mistakes. The study fell into dead silence again. Xue Shang slumped into a chair with a dejected look. His face was as cold as ice, and his hands could not stop trembling. Every Cheongchi clansman's life was very important to him. It was related to the Cheongchi clan's prosperity and the hope of unifying the Star Source continent. But now, 22 of them had died. Furthermore, the left protector and the three elders were also among them. They were the cornerstones of the Cheongchi clan, the most powerful warriors. After a long time, Xue Shang waved his hand and coldly shouted, "Scram!" As if he had been granted amnesty, the spirit protector hurriedly bowed and left the study, leaving as if he was fleeing. Damn Tao Yongsheng! Could it be that you're willing to pay such a huge price for my help? You've offended a powerful being from the Dragon Clan, yet you've made my clan pay such a huge price. If I don't make you vomit blood this time, how can I be satisfied? Xue Shang cursed with a ferocious expression, his entire body surging with murderous intent. It was only now that he realized how powerful the powerful being from the Dragon Clan that Tao Yongsheng was chasing was. Although he really wanted to bring the right protector and a few elders to kill Long Tian personally to avenge the left protector and the rest, the Cheongchi clan had already paid such a huge price. However, the Cheongchi clan had already paid such a heavy price. He was not willing to sacrifice a few more elders. Even if he wanted to kill Long Tian to avenge the left protector and the rest, he had to consider it at length. He would not take the lead again. He had to let the powerful beings from the Taotai clan be the cannon fodder. Hence, he calmed down and thought for a long time before taking out a communication jade slip and sending a message to Tao Yongsheng. In the northwest of the Clear Sky region, 5 million miles away from the border. In a certain city, the Taotai clan leader Tao Yongsheng, the high priest, and Tao Yuxing were resting in a house. Of course, godly king experts like them did not need to rest even if they had to travel continuously for 10 days. The main reason they stopped here was to wait for the other two elders. In the past few days, the three of them had been shaken off by Ji Tianqing and chased in the wrong direction. However, Tao Yongsheng had detected Ji Tianqing's location in time and asked the two territorial lords and the Cheongqi clan's godly king to help kill him. Then, they also changed direction and rushed towards the northwest, wanting to meet up with the powerful beings from the Cheongqi clan. At this time, the chaotic situation in the Taotai clan had already calmed down. The two elders were left in the star-devouring cave to lead the clan members to rebuild their homes and heal their injuries. The other two elders rushed to this city through the teleportation formation to meet up with them. The high priest held a teacup in his hand, but he was not in the mood to drink tea. He kept spinning the teacup and muttered to himself, the two elders should arrive within 15 minutes. Previously, the clan leader had detected that Long Tian's aura was at the border of the two regions. If there were no accidents, the powerful beings from the Cheongqi clan and the two territorial lords should have already intercepted Long Tian. However, why is there no news from the Cheongqi clan? Tao Yuxing also had the same question. He held his teacup and drank tea, but his gaze drifted towards Tao Yongsheng. Tao Yongsheng's expression was calm as he said calmly, that kid's strength is not ordinary, and he is very cunning. I am only worried that the Cheongqi clan's godly king and the two territorial lords will lower their guard and be careless. Don't let that kid slip away from under their noses. Tao Yuxing said worriedly, that can't be, right? If the left guardian of the Cheongqi clan can't even do this, then his ability needs to be tested. Tao Yongsheng was about to explain when a spiritual light flew from the sky and landed in front of him. The spiritual light dissipated, and a communication jade slip appeared. Tao Yongsheng hurriedly picked up the communication jade slip, and his eyes flashed. He said, it's a message from Xueshang. After saying that, he used his divine sense to read the message in the jade slip. The high priest and Tao Yuxing both remained silent, but they looked at him expectantly. After a while, Tao Yongsheng's expression changed. His brows furrowed tightly, and his eyes became extremely serious. The high priest and Tao Yuxing both realized that something was wrong and asked in unison, Clan leader, what's wrong? Tao Yongsheng put down the jade slip and said with a dark expression, the left guardian of the Cheongqi clan, 3 elders, and the territorial lords and deputy territorial lords of the 2 regions, a total of 8 godly kings and 18 elites of the Blood Slaughter Hall intercepted Long Tian at the border, and both sides fought a fierce battle. However, all of them were killed by Long Tian. What? The high priest and Tao Yuxing exclaimed at the same time. The teacups in their hands fell to the ground and shattered. Both of them were dumbfounded, and their faces were filled with shock. Their bodies also seemed to have turned to stone. Chapter 3640. This is too frightening. This person's strength is actually so terrifying. After a long time, the high priest and Tao Yuxing came back to their senses. Their expressions were very ugly. The atmosphere was very heavy and oppressive. Although those who died were not from the Taotai clan, the 3 of them did not have the mood to gloat. They all felt great pressure. Tao Yongsheng added in a low tone. However, that kid killed everyone and also suffered heavy injuries himself. He's fleeing with injuries. The high priest frowned and said thoughtfully, even so, Long Tian's strength is very terrifying. He's not even below me. Previously in the star-devouring grotto heaven, he might have been worried that we would besiege him, so he was in a hurry to escape. It's hard to imagine what kind of damage he would bring to our clan if he went all out and fought with us in the star-devouring grotto heaven. Tao Yuxing hesitated for a moment before plucking up the courage to ask, "Clan leader, high priest, then should we continue to pursue him?" Seeing the two turn their heads to look at him with sharp gazes, he immediately shrunk his neck and explained, "I'm not afraid. I just feel that we don't need to make any more sacrifices. Even if we intercept him and have another big battle, we can kill him to avenge our clansmen. However, we're bound to lose a few more elders. At that time, even if he dies, we'll also suffer heavy injuries. It'll be hard for us to recover for thousands of years." The high priest's sharp gaze immediately became much gentler. After thinking for a moment, he also nodded in agreement. "Clan leader, our losses are already great enough. Please reconsider." Tao Yongsheng was silent for a moment before he grinned coldly and said, "Things have already reached this point, and you want me to stop now? Our clansmen are already dead, the mine has been snatched, and the Taotai clan's face has been lost. Now you want me to give up? Ha 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 ha, then what face does our clan have? How will we convince the masses in the future? How will we intimidate the surrounding regions?" The high priest and Tao Yuxing immediately fell silent. Tao Yongxing continued, "The Cheongqi clan also lost a protector and 3 elders. If I give up now, will Xueshang agree? Do you want to break the alliance between the 2 clans and make Xueshang and our clan become enemies?" This. The high priest was speechless. Tao Yuxing hurriedly waved his hand and apologized with a face full of shame. "This subordinate knows his mistake, please calm down, patriarch." At this moment, in the sky not far away, 2 beams of divine light flew over from the city. Tao Yongxing raised his head and glanced at them. He said expressionlessly, "The 2 elders have arrived. It's time for us to leave. Let's go to the battlefield at the border to check out the situation first, then meet up with Xueshang and join forces to kill Long Tian." The high priest was stunned for a moment. He asked in disbelief, "Xueshang is going to do it himself?" Tao Yongxing nodded and said expressionlessly, "That's right. He wanted to avenge the dead protectors and elders. However, he added 2 conditions. Firstly, he wants to double the conditions we agreed on. Secondly, he wants Long Tian's corpse and godhood." Tao Yuxing frowned and said somewhat angrily, "Does that mean that Long Tian's dragon tribe bloodline belongs to Xueshang?" Tao Yongxing said in a deep voice, "The dragon bloodline belongs to him. The phoenix bloodline and the golden rock bloodline belong to me." The high priest and Tao Yuxing fell silent. Even though this deal was a huge loss no matter how one looked at it. However, this was something that could not be helped. For the dignity of the Taotai clan, they had to do it no matter what. The burial of Heaven Sword already flew continuously for an entire day. While Ji Tianqing just happened to be in closed seclusion cultivation for 50 days in the distorted spacetime. The 8 divine kings' godhood fragments were all devoured and refined by him. Previously, he still thought that it required some kind of lucky chance and life-threatening danger before it could stimulate his potential and break through to the 6th-level divine king realm. He did not expect that after he refined 8 sets of godhood fragments and deprived 40 kinds of divine Tao laws, he broke through smoothly. After all, those 8 divine kings' strength was not ordinary. The quality of the godhood fragments was extremely high. Not only were there 5 middle-level divine kings, there were even 3 high-level divine kings. The most important thing was that there was a left protector with a deep foundation among them who had cultivated for over 20,000 years. He was an 8th-level realm divine king. Now, not only did Ji Tianqing reach the 6th-level divine king realm, his strength increased by more than 6 times. The divine Tao laws that he grasped also reached as many as 580. Even if he faced a 9th-level realm divine king expert again, he could also put up a fight and be more relaxed. After he ended his cultivation, Ji Tianqing opened his eyes and a gratified smile appeared on his lips. I thought that I would need the 9-turn star rhyme pill to break through to the 6th level Divine King realm. I didn't expect it to be so smooth. This is all thanks to those few Divine Kings, especially the left protector of the Qiongqi tribe. His power alone is comparable to that of 4 domain masters. Ji Tianqing calculated that he would save the 9-turn star rhyme pill for when he broke through to the upper-level Divine King realm. After all, there was a huge bottleneck from the 6th-level Divine King realm to the 7th-level Divine King realm. If there was no major lucky chance, it would be very difficult to break through. According to the previous plan, Ji Tianqing would open the furnace to refine the 9-turn star rhyme pill after he finished his closed-door cultivation. However, he recalled something very important. Hence, he left the distorted spacetime and headed towards the 3rd level of the Divine Pagoda. Swoosh! A white light flashed and Ji Tianqing appeared in the cold and gloomy wasteland. His divine sense spread out and covered a radius of 70,000 miles. Very soon, he found Baifeng. That was the center of the wasteland and there was an oasis with a radius of 1,000 miles. There were mountains and rivers and the scenery was very pleasant. Right above the oasis, there were 9 divine pearls floating in the sky and they were shining with a dazzling golden light, illuminating the entire oasis. Whereas in the depths of the oasis, there was a majestic golden palace built on top of a lofty mountain that was 3,000 feet tall. The palace was surrounded by divine light and white clouds, there were also colorful birds and beasts. Not only were there spirit cranes, there were also various rare spirit birds. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianqing was slightly stunned but he immediately understood something as a smile appeared on the corners of his lips. He flew across tens of thousands of miles in the sky and appeared outside that magnificent palace. Not long later, he saw Baifeng who was circulating her energy to recuperate in a secret room in the palace. Did you do all this? Ji Tianqing looked at her and asked with a grin. Baifeng was a little wary and hurriedly explained, this space is too dark and desolate. It's completely unsuitable for cultivation and recuperation. Therefore, I moved a portion of the mountains, rivers, and living beings from my inner world here. Only by living in a place like this can I be at ease and cultivate. Clearly, she was worried that Ji Tianqing would reprimand her and ask her to remove the mountains, rivers, and palaces. She was really unwilling to continue sitting in the cold and gloomy wasteland. That feeling was like being imprisoned and exiled. It was too shabby. Unexpectedly, Ji Tianqing did not reprimand her. Instead, he smiled and said, "You've cultivated an inner world. I didn't expect that you've also mastered the power of faith and raised an entire world's people." Baifeng's expression was slightly awkward. She could only nod and did not explain further. Chapter 36-41. Before Ji Tianqing ascended to the God realm, he had told the people around him that there were many god monarchs and god kings in the god realm who cultivated the power of faith. Under normal circumstances, they would cultivate their inner worlds or use some kind of divine weapon to create a world. They would create countless living beings in that world and all of them would worship them. They would use that to gather the power of faith. This method could quickly increase one's strength without wasting a lot of time and energy. Many god monarchs and god kings favored this method. However, in the eyes of many orthodox cultivators of the divine way, this was an unorthodox method. Therefore, god monarchs and god kings who cultivated the power of faith were in the minority. However, Ji Tianqing knew that this was also a type of divine way that had been passed down since ancient times. It could not be considered an unorthodox method. Although he did not have any prejudice against this method, he did not have any intention of acknowledging it or cultivating it. Otherwise, he would have used the power of faith in the sword world long ago and created countless living beings. As for the 5 elements world, on the surface, it seemed like billions of living beings were under his control and protection. However, in reality, he had only merged with the 5 elements world and did not make billions of living beings worship him. At this moment, Ji Tianqing mentioned the power of faith. Bai Feng was worried that he would reprimand, obstruct or deny it, so he hurriedly changed the topic. Master, do you have any instructions for me? Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said, it's not really an instruction. I just want to ask you about something. Ask me, for advice? Bai Feng was stunned and looked at him with a strange expression. He was in disbelief. In his opinion, Ji Tianqing was almost invincible, omniscient and omnipotent. How could he ask him for advice? Don't look at me like that. I'm not omnipotent. Ji Tianqing saw through his thoughts and explained, what I want to ask is the divination technique you are best at. Back in the boundless heaven continent, you helped those god envoys to find my location and traces. When this matter was mentioned, Bai Feng immediately became spirited and explained excitedly, the reason why I could find your location across a few regions is because of my divine eye of annihilation. This is the inherited talent of my race and it happens to have this effect. Of course, using the divine eyes of annihilation to track a target wasn't something that could be used casually. Only by coming into contact with the target and planting a special divine aura in the target's body could the deduction be successful. If you want me to track down a complete stranger, I won't be able to do it. After listening, Ji Tianqing nodded slightly, and said thoughtfully, in that case, Tao Yongsheng was able to track my location and traces, most likely using a similar method. Previously, when I fought with him, he must have left some kind of special divine power or clue in my body. However, when I was recuperating and cultivating in seclusion, I checked many times and didn't find any trace of his divine power. Not only his divine power, but even the 4 divine powers of the Taotai clan were nowhere to be found. Bai Feng also frowned and after pondering over it for a moment, she spoke out in a grave tone, Tao Yongsheng is a 9th-stage realm god king who has cultivated for over 20,000 years and the depth of his cultivation and the profoundness of his methods are far above mine. But even so, his method of tracking you should be the same as mine. No matter if he used some kind of divine ability, innate talent inheritance or some kind of god relic, he must have left some clues in your body. Speaking of this, he paused for a moment and spoke out in a solemn tone, Lord, I feel that there's a possibility that the divine power which Tao Yongsheng left in your body might be extremely special. Not only is it extremely concealed, it doesn't belong to the Taotai clan, nor does it belong to his own power. Ji Tianqing nodded his head and said, Amen, there's this possibility. Thank you for your analysis and reminder. I'll go back and do a thorough check. We must remove the clues which he left behind as soon as possible. Otherwise, he might keep on chasing after us, like a lingering spirit. Saying that, Ji Tianqing left the 3rd-story space. Bai Feng looked at his disappearing back view in the white light and a smile appeared on her face. After some time later, he muttered to himself, previously I always thought that Kenshin was omniscient and omnipotent, high up in the air and could only be looked up to. I'd not expected that Kenshin would also have times when he couldn't understand. He's not much different from ordinary god kings like us. This is good. When I interact with him in the future, I won't have to be on my guard or be on my guard. Unknowingly, Bai Feng's impression of Ji Tianqing had undergone a subtle change. In the past, he'd always thought that Kenshin was high up in the air, cold and aloof. He could only be looked up to and could not be approached. However, now he realized that Kenshin was also human. There was no need to deliberately keep a distance when interacting with him. Thinking about it this way, he suddenly felt that being a guard for the sword god was not something that was unacceptable. Ji Tianqing returned to the distorted space and sat cross-legged under the blood flame's sacred tree. Thinking of Bai Feng's reaction just now, the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. He. Although I'm not good at tracking secret techniques, if Bai Feng can think of something, how can I not? In fact, he had already guessed the answer when he was cultivating in seclusion and breaking through to the 6th level of the God King realm. He had only used this as an excuse to intentionally interact with Bai Feng and let her see his flaws. He wasn't as perfect as she had imagined. This was the only way he could gradually eliminate the estrangement and wariness in Bai Feng's heart. Ji Tianqing knew very well that if he wanted to control an expert like Bai Feng, he would not be able to obtain her loyalty by merely using force and coercion. In his previous life, although he appeared cold on the surface, he was actually proficient in all kinds of controlling techniques. Otherwise, he would not have so many followers and established such a huge force. To him, controlling Bai Feng was very easy and simple. Soon, he threw this small matter to the back of his mind and began to circulate his energy to inspect his body. Previously, when he was cultivating in seclusion, he had inspected his body many times. However, he did not find the 4 types of divine powers that the Taotai clan usually used. He also did not find Tao Yongxing's energy aura. Now that he had changed his mind, he began to inspect his body again. He did not let go of any trace of blood, flesh, tendons, bones, fingernails, or even hair on his head. As for his internal organs, sea of consciousness, and Godhead, they were the focus of his inspection. Time passed quietly. A quarter of an hour, half an hour had passed. After 2 hours, he had inspected his body from inside out 10 times. He even checked every drop of blood in his body. In the end, he still did not find any abnormal energy or traces. I can confirm that there is nothing abnormal in my body. Then, where are the traces and clues that Tao Yongxing left behind? Ji Tianqing frowned and pondered for a moment. Suddenly, he thought of something and his eyes lit up. He quickly left the distorted space and flew out of the sword world. He appeared at the top of the sea of clouds. Chapter 36-42. Whoosh! It was noon, and the sun was high in the sky. The Heaven Burier sword was like a bolt of pitch-black lightning as it flew over a vast lake. Suddenly, Ji Tianqing flew out of the sword world and appeared beside it. Burial of Heaven, stop for a moment. He spoke to buried heaven through divine telekinesis voice transmission. Burial of Heaven didn't understand what was going on, so it quickly stopped and asked, "What's wrong?" Ji Tianqing reached out to hold the divine sword, glanced at the vast lake below, and landed in the lake. Whoosh! He dove into the rippling lake and dove down to the bottom of the lake, creating a temporary cave at the bottom of the lake. After using 2 formations to seal the cave, he took out the Jyotian 10 Absolutes Pagoda and entered the distorted spacetime with the Burial of Heaven. After a while, he returned to the blood flame sacred tree, holding the Burial of Heaven with both hands and carefully observing it. Burial of Heaven, when I fought with Tao Yongxing and the others that day, were you injured? Burial of Heaven realized that there was a problem, so it answered truthfully, Tao Yongxing and the few divine kings of the Taotai clan all used king-grade high-grade divine artifacts. Although the battle was very short, I was indeed injured. However, they were all minor injuries, so I didn't tell you. In these few days, I have been silently absorbing divine power to slowly heal my injuries. I should be fully recovered in a month. Ji Tianqing thought to himself, as expected, and asked again, then, did you feel anything strange in these few days? For example, were there any special forces or traces of the blade's injuries? This Burial of Heaven was silent for a long time, then it said in a low voice, I checked it carefully, but I didn't find any special forces or traces. However, there are a total of 5 injuries on the blade. I have been trying my best to heal them, but only 4 injuries are healing. One of the injuries doesn't seem to be a big problem, and it is also very light, but there are no signs of recovery. Hearing this, Ji Tianqing vaguely guessed the answer. He hurriedly held the sword of Burial of Heaven and carefully examined it, looking for any damage on the blade. However, the damage to the Burial of Heaven was not on the surface, but on the internal structure of the divine sword. It was impossible to see with the naked eye. Therefore, Ji Tianqing could only use his God's Eye secret technique to carefully examine the internal structure of the divine sword. Not long after, he found 5 damaged areas from the extremely complicated internal structure. Under the guidance of the Burial of Heaven, he eliminated the 4 damages and finally locked onto the unrecoverable damage. At first, he couldn't tell what was wrong with the injury. However, Ji Tianqing activated his divine sense and performed his ultimate skill. Finally, he found some clues. In that extremely small and negligible damage, there was actually a wisp of gray qi that seemed to be there but not there. I've finally found it. Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows as a glint flashed across his eyes. That wisp of gray qi was less than 1/100th the size of a strand of hair. There were no ripples of divine power and it seemed to have no attribute. Ji Tianqing was sure that this wisp of gray qi had nothing to do with the Taotai race or Tao Yongxing's divine power. However, it was this inconspicuous wisp of gray qi that had exposed his tracks and routes to Tao Yongxing's detection. The Burial of Heaven also realized and said with some self-blame, no wonder Tao Yongxing could grasp our tracks. I hadn't thought that he would be so cunning. I was careless this time. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been ambushed. Ji Tianqing thought for a moment and then a meaningful smile appeared on his face. He said, "You don't have to blame yourself. This may not be a mistake. Maybe it is our chance." Chance? What chance? The Burial of Heaven stilled and instinctively asked. Ji Tianqing said with a smile, "A chance to counterattack." "What do you plan to do?" The Burial of Heaven vaguely guessed his thoughts and asked. "Haha, you'll know in a while." Ji Tianqing chuckled and began to cast a spell to retrieve that wisp of gray qi. At the border between the Ganyang domain and Clear Sky domain. The place where Ji Tianqing was ambushed previously had already become a wasteland with a radius of 100,000 miles. Flying across the sky, even from tens of thousands of miles away, the wasteland was still very conspicuous. At this time, Tao Yongxing, the high priest, and 3 Taotai race elders were standing above the wasteland, observing with solemn expressions. There was another group of people tens of thousands of miles away. They were also circling in the sky, carefully observing the battlefield. That group of people were Qiongqi race experts. There were a total of 22 people. However, the strange thing was that there were only 2 God King experts in this group. The other 20 were all upper divine lords. The 2 God Kings were naturally Qiongqi race clan leader Xue Shang and right protector Min Tai. The 20 upper divine lords were all wearing blood-red armor. They were naturally the elites of the blood slaughter hall. Xue Shang personally went out, but he only brought the Qiongqi race's 3rd strongest expert, right protector Min Tai. He did not bring an elder with him. This was because even someone as powerful as the left protector had been killed by Long Tian. It was meaningless for him to bring the elders. Instead, it would be life-threatening. The Qiongqi race had already suffered heavy losses. They could not lose even one more elder. As for the elites of the blood slaughter hall, even if 20 of them died in battle, it would not be so regrettable. Both sides observed the battlefield for a while before gathering together to meet. Tao Yongxing cupped his hands at Xue Shang and asked, "Clan leader Xue Shang, did you find any clues?" Xue Shang sneered and said expressionlessly, "You personally fought with Long Tian. You know his strength and methods best. Why ask me?" Clearly, Xue Shang was very angry and blamed Tao Yongxing for hiding the truth. Tao Yongxing was a little embarrassed. He hurriedly changed the topic and said, "It happened not long ago. Only a day has passed. That kid is seriously injured and should not have escaped far. I'll execute the secret art right away and investigate that kid's whereabouts and position. This time, we'll join hands. No matter how great that kid's ability is, he'll also die without a doubt." Although Xue Shang harbored resentment towards Tao Yongxing. But these few sentences of his, Xue Shang still agreed very much. His eyes surged with a malevolent glint as he laughed coldly and said, "Hu, the Cheongqi and Taotai, two clans' strongest people, have all moved out. For ninth stage realm divine kings joining hands, who can stop them? He's not the Dragon Emperor, so of course he'll die without a doubt. If we fail again this time and let him escape alive, you guys just slit your own throats and commit suicide. Tao Yongsheng, the high priest, and the three Taotai race elders' expressions were rather gloomy. Why should we commit suicide? If that kid escapes, won't you lose face? This thought flashed across the five people's minds at the same time. Of course, this matter was because they had a request from the Cheongqi race, requesting the Cheongqi race to come forward and help. Therefore, this sentence could only be thought about in their hearts and could not be said out. Immediately, Tao Yongsheng took out the Chaos Primordial Bell and started invoking the art to investigate Ji Tianqing's position. Xue Shang also took out a king-level upper-grade divine ship and personally steered the divine ship, bringing everyone to fly towards the north. Chapter 36-43. There were teleportation arrays between the continents and regions of the Dragon Realm. There were also teleportation arrays between the main cities of the Clear Sky region and the Ganyang region. However, the teleportation arrays between the cities and regions were heavily guarded with layers of protection. Only people of high status were qualified to use those teleportation arrays. Because of the teleportation arrays, Tao Yongsheng, the high priest, and Tao Yuxing were able to make it back in time after being shaken off by Ji Tianqing. Now, the experts of the two clans had joined forces to kill Ji Tianqing and had to use the teleportation arrays to make it back in time. Swoosh! Xue Shang drove the dark red divine warship and sped through the sky, heading straight for the main city closest to the border. There was a teleportation array in the main city that could teleport to an imperial city in the middle of the Ganyang region. Even if Ji Tianqing had been running for a day, they could still make it to the front to intercept him. In the main hall of the divine warship, Tao Yongsheng used a secret technique and quickly found Ji Tianqing's location. That guy ran really fast. He actually escaped to the Surging Sun Empire. Currently, he seems to be in the Surging Sun Lake. Tao Yongsheng sat cross-legged in the main hall. The primordial chaos bell became 1 foot tall and floated in front of him. It spun slowly and flashed with divine light. He closed his eyes and used his mind to sense Ji Tianqing's location. The right guardian of the Cheongqi clan who was guarding the main hall hurriedly reported to Xue Shang when he heard the words, Surging Sun Lake. Xue Shang immediately planned their route. They would first enter the main city at the border and use the teleportation array to reach the imperial city of the Surging Sun Empire. Then, they would drive the divine warship to the Surging Sun Lake and kill Ji Tianqing on the way. After a while, Tao Yongsheng suddenly raised his eyebrows as if he had understood something. He immediately grinned coldly. That guy is in the Surging Sun Lake. Why hasn't he moved after so long? Could it be that he... I understand. He must have been severely injured and hid in the Surging Sun Lake to recuperate from his injuries. Ha ha ha. He can't run away now. Just wait for death. Hearing Tao Yongsheng's laughter, the high priest and the other elders looked expectant. Their eyes flashed with cold light. The distance from the border of the Ganyang region to the Surging Sun Empire's Surging Sun Lake was a total of 20 million li. Even if Xue Shang personally steered the divine ship, it would still take him 20 hours to arrive. However, with the divine teleportation array and the time taken to travel, it only took them 2 hours to reach the imperial city of the Surging Sun Empire. Then, Xue Shang steered the divine ship and left the imperial city, rushing toward the gushing sun lake that was 300,000 miles away. Everyone knew that the heavily injured Long Tian was currently hiding in the gushing sun lake to recuperate and had not moved for a long time. This time, it was the best opportunity to kill Long Tian. When Xue Shang thought about how he would soon be able to obtain the Dragon Clan's bloodline and the high-level Divine King's Dragon Corpse, his heart was filled with anticipation. At the same time, the death of the left protector and the 3 elders had brought him a lot of relief. Tao Yongsheng, the high priest, and the others' feelings were similar to Xueshang's. Although they could only obtain the blood of the Rock clan and the Phoenix clan, they could avenge their clansmen by killing Long Tian. Most importantly, the Taotai clan's face and dignity were preserved. 45 minutes later. The blood-red divine ship that was thousands of feet long and shaped like a sharp shuttle arrived in the sky above the gushing sun lake. Under the golden sun, this huge lake with a radius of close to 50,000 miles was a scene of rolling waves and sparkling waves. This place was rich in divine power and resources, so many spirit beasts and demonic beasts were hiding in the lake. However, when the divine ship arrived, it brought with it an invisible pressure that caused many spirit beasts and demonic beasts to flee in panic. Those that could not escape in time hid in caves and lairs at the bottom of the lake, trembling. They did not dare to move at all. Xueshang followed the direction Tao Yongsheng pointed and steered the divine ship toward the center of the lake. That kid is in the center of the lake. He should be hiding at the bottom of the lake. Head southeast, about 20,000 miles away from us. That's right, Xueshang, you'd better conceal the aura of the divine ship so that you don't wake that kid up. Tao Yongsheng pointed the way for Xueshang while reminding him to hide. Xueshang did not think much of it and smiled confidently. Since you're sure that the kid is still in the lake, he's definitely dead. Do we need to conceal our aura? Even if he wakes up and starts to run now, he won't be able to escape from me. Ha ha ha. Tao Yongsheng laughed dryly and could not help but say, it's better to be careful. After all, that kid is very cunning. In a flash, the divine ship swept across 20,000 miles of the lake. After reaching the center of the lake, Xueshang immediately put away the divine ship. Swoosh! Swoosh swoosh swoosh! Tao Yongsheng and the 4 Taotai race god kings, Xueshang and the 21 Qiongqi race experts all appeared above the lake. Everyone, spread out and surround this place. Be careful. Tao Yongsheng and Xueshang ordered in unison. All of a sudden, everyone spread out and formed an encirclement with a radius of 2,000 miles above the lake. Other than the 2 clan leaders, everyone took out their divine weapons and accumulated divine power in their bodies. They looked at the lake with vigilance. Tao Yongsheng and Xueshang were empty-handed and stood above the lake calmly. The 2 looked at the calm lake under their feet and could not help but sneer. Ha ha ha, that kid still hasn't noticed that we're here. There's no reaction at all. It looks like he's seriously injured and has no time to care about anything else. While sneering, Xueshang waved his hand and sent out a dazzling divine light into the calm lake. Immediately, the lake water within a 100-mile radius was refined and disappeared into thin air. The dark red blood light formed a shield with a radius of 100 miles and a depth of 10,000 feet, separating the center of the lake from the rest of the world. Everyone could clearly see that there seemed to be a cave among several huge rocks at the bottom of the lake. Those rocks were protected by 2 divine formations and were flickering with a faint divine light. Tao Yongsheng looked at the rocks and sneered mockingly, Long Tian, hurry up and come out to meet your death. The rolling sound waves contained a soul-shaking power that penetrated the 2 divine formations and enveloped those rocks. However, those rocks did not respond. Ji Tianqing also did not show up. Xueshang frowned and vaguely had a bad premonition. He waved his hand and sent out several dazzling blood-red sword lights. Bang bang bang. Immediately, the 2 divine formations protecting the rocks were shattered by the blood-red sword lights. Those rocks were also cut open by the sword lights and rolled to the side. A dilapidated cave was revealed. Above the rubble on the ground, there was a crystal ball the size of an egg. Inside the translucent crystal ball, a tiny wisp of gray gas could be vaguely seen. However, Ji Tianqing and the Sword of Burial of Heaven were nowhere to be seen. Seeing this scene, the expressions of Tao Yongsheng, Xueshang, and more than 20 powerhouses froze, and their faces were full of shock. The next moment, Xueshang and Tao Yongxing reacted at the same time and could not help but exclaim. Damn it! We've been fooled. Everyone, be careful. Chapter 36-44. When they came, they were full of confidence. Who would have thought that after finding Long Tian's hiding place, they would end up empty-handed? Xueshang and Tao Yongxing's reactions were fast and alert. While the God Kings and elites of the Bloody Slaughter Hall were still in a daze, the two of them realized that the situation was bad. Not only did they realize that they had been tricked, but they also guessed that this was very likely a trap set by Long Tian. Even though the possibility of the heavily injured Long Tian setting up an ambush for so many experts was not high. Unless Long Tian was tired of living and wanted to die. However, Xueshang and Tao Yongxing were very cautious and did not rule out this possibility. After all, with Long Tian's daring character, nothing was impossible. As Xueshang and Tao Yongxing's exclamations sounded, the God Kings and elites of the Bloody Slaughter Hall came to their senses and hurriedly retreated. Everyone's attention was still focused on the rocks and the crystal ball. In their predictions, if Long Tian had set up an ambush here, the key would definitely be the crystal ball. Not only did the God Kings and elites of the Bloody Slaughter Hall think so, but even Xueshang thought so. Only Tao Yongxing was different. He stared at the crystal ball for a while and frowned. He cursed in his heart and quickly moved his gaze away to look around. Damn it! The formless primal chaos chi that I left in his sword was actually removed by him. That formless chaotic energy was hidden very well. How could he have discovered it? Without a doubt, that wisp of gray energy was the mark he left in the burial of heaven when he used the primordial chaos bell to fight with Ji Tianqing. With this mark, he was able to track Ji Tianqing's position and escape route and find this place. Now, the formless chaotic energy had been removed and Ji Tianqing had disappeared. Whether or not Ji Tianqing had set up an ambush, his plan to kill him had failed. However, this matter was not over yet. Just as everyone was on high alert, the surface of the lake in all directions suddenly lit up with divine light that soared into the sky. Whoosh! Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Tens of thousands of starry sword lights soared into the sky from the bottom of the lake, instantly forming a silver light shield with a radius of 10,000 miles, sealing off this area. The heaven-destroying sword formation formed by 40,000 starry giant swords was formed. The sword formation was activated, releasing a formless pressure and sharp sword chi that pressed down from the sky. Immediately, the expressions of the experts above the lake changed. Their eyes were filled with anger and worry. Damn it! That brat really set up an ambush here. Everyone, don't panic. We have so many people, and we even have 2 clan leaders. What are we afraid of? It's fine if that brat ran away, but I didn't expect that he would dare to set up an ambush for us. He's dead for sure. Ha ha ha. He's too arrogant and conceited. He's courting death. After the initial panic, the experts of the 2 clans quickly calmed down. Seeing Tao Yongxing and Xueshang remain calm, the masters of the 2 clans regained their confidence. In their minds, with 4 9th-stage realm God Kings present, what was there to be afraid of? Other than peak God Kings, no one could defeat those 4 experts. At this moment, Tao Yongxing and Xueshang stood above the lake with arrogant expressions. They looked up at the huge heaven-destroying sword formation and opened their mouths to speak. Long Tian, you can actually see through the formless chaos chi that this seat is hiding. This seat indeed has a whole new level of respect for you. But unfortunately, you've overestimated your own ability. If you run away now, you can still save your life. But you actually still want to counterattack. That's too laughable. Tao Yongxing's face hung a cold smile as he shouted loudly like a bell. Xueshang's face was gloomy and his tone was cold as he shouted angrily, "Little beast, are you intending to keep hiding in the dark like a coward? Come out and accept your death." This seed is going to avenge the dead clansman today. As the billowing voice spread across the sky, the two of them gave off a sacred majesty, causing the god kings and sir gods of the two clans to be filled with confidence and anticipation. Following that, in the empty sky, a white figure appeared out of thin air. Swoosh! That was a youth from the dragon clan who was dressed in a white robe and covered with golden dragon scales. He was handsome and had an imposing appearance. That was Ji Tianqing. He was also within the heaven punishment sword formation. Standing high in the sky, he looked down at everyone from above. Tao Yongsheng, wasn't the lesson that I taught you previously painful enough? For the sake of the Tao Tai clan's reputation, you sacrificed the lives of all the elders. Do you think it's worth it? For the sake of illusory dignity, you let the clansmen go to their deaths dauntlessly? Or do you decisively stop the pursuit and cut your losses in time? I hope that you can consider it carefully. After all, there is no real deep hatred between us. It's all because you are too greedy. Ji Tianqing looked down at Tao Yongsheng expressionlessly and said coldly. The Grand Priest and Tao Yuxing had previously discussed this issue and had suggested it to Tao Yongsheng. But Tao Yongsheng had rejected it. Now, in front of the experts of the two clans, Ji Tianqing had said this. Even if Tao Yongsheng had wavered and thought of giving up the pursuit, it was impossible for him to consider it again. He didn't even hesitate at all. He was very confident and overbearing as he shouted angrily, "What a joke! You will definitely die today. I'm about to turn your bones into ashes, and you still dare to spout nonsense here. Why didn't you think of reconciliation when you massacred my clansmen? Now that you are in a desperate situation, you want to beg me for reconciliation. Wishful thinking. I will definitely kill you today, and I will tear you into pieces." As soon as Tao Yongsheng's voice fell, Xueshang turned to look at him and said expressionlessly, "I said that his body and godhead are mine." If Tao Yongsheng tore Long Tian's body into pieces and turned his bones into ashes, then how could he refine the dragon clan's bloodline? Tao Yongsheng knew that he had misspoken and hurriedly explained, "I just said it casually. Since we have an agreement, of course I will leave his corpse intact." High in the sky, Ji Tianqing retracted his gaze and no longer paid attention to Tao Yongsheng. In fact, he had long expected that Tao Yongsheng would have such a reaction. And he was only giving Tao Yongsheng one last chance before he started the massacre. Then, he looked at Xueshang and said expressionlessly, "Xueshang, this is a grudge between me and the Tao Tai clan. It has nothing to do with the Qiongqi clan. If you are smart enough, it's best to take your people and leave. Otherwise, not only will you not get any benefits, but you will also sink deeper and deeper." Unfortunately, before he could finish speaking, Xueshang sneered disdainfully and interrupted him. "Ha ha ha! How laughable and pitiful! Long Tian, is this how you admit defeat and beg to surrender? If you obediently lay down your arms and surrender, kowtow to me and admit your wrongdoings, perhaps I will grant you a quick death." As soon as Xueshang's voice fell, the powerhouses of the two clans laughed loudly. They looked at Ji Tianqing with eyes full of contempt and ridicule. Ji Tianqing still looked indifferent and said calmly, "I have said what I should say. Since you insist on seeking death, then I will grant you your wish." Chapter 36-45. After Ji Tianqing finished speaking, he started to control the heaven-destroying sword formation with both hands. The heaven-destroying sword formation in the surging sun lake was different from the one he usually used with the burial of heaven sword. Normally, he would use the sword rain to summon tens of thousands of starry giant swords to kill the target first. Then, the tens of thousands of starry giant swords would form a sword formation. This kind of sword formation was very rare in the God realm and Dragon realm. Only a few peak divine kings could do it. In addition, the power of the heaven-destroying sword formation was extraordinary. Therefore, Ji Tianqing could usually kill strong enemies with this move. But it was different this time. He calculated that the Tao Tai and Cheong Chi's elites would arrive. If he used the heaven-destroying sword formation at the last minute, it would not be powerful enough. Therefore, he spent a few hours to bury 99 divine swords in the surging sun lake in advance. He used the 99 divine swords as the foundation and used a large amount of divine power, god stones, and materials to set up the heaven-destroying sword formation. In this way, the power of this heaven-destroying sword formation was about 5 times stronger than the heaven-destroying sword formation he usually used. It was even stronger than the one he used at the Starry Cliff with the help of the extraterritorial stars. Such a powerful heaven-destroying sword formation was enough to kill everyone except Xueshang, Tao Yongsheng, the High Priest, and the Right Guardian. Time was very tight. Ji Tianqing had just finished setting up the heaven-destroying sword formation and was about to finish the work to hide the sword formation more perfectly. But his divine senses detected that the elites of the 2 clans had arrived on the divine ship. Therefore, he could only hide and wait for the elites of the 2 clans to step into the trap. He was still worried that Tao Yongsheng and Xueshang were too cautious and would not easily fall into the trap. He did not expect that his worry was unnecessary. Tao Yongsheng, Xueshang, and the rest had absolute confidence and did not take him seriously at all. Therefore, his counterattack plan was unusually successful. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. As Ji Tianqing cast spells with both hands, the heaven-destroying sword formation within a radius of 10,000 miles immediately sped up. The sword formation burst forth with dazzling divine light, releasing an even more powerful pressure and sword chi. Under his control, 20,000 starry giant swords maintained the seal while the other 20,000 giant swords flew back and forth between heaven and earth, attacking the experts of the 2 clans. Swish! Swish! In an instant, dozens of sword blade storms, sword light vortexes, and sword rain poured down from the sky and were about to drown everyone. Everyone felt a great pressure and a strong sense of impending death. Their expressions immediately became much more serious. Especially the 3 elders of the Tao Tai clan and the 20 elites of the Bloodbath Hall, they seemed as if they were facing a great enemy, and dense worry surged out from their eyes. They didn't have the confidence to block the sword light that blotted out the sky. Tao Yongsheng did not dare to be careless. He hurriedly took out the primordial chaos bell and suspended it above his head. Furthermore, he shouted in a solemn tone, "Everyone, be careful. This sword formation is extraordinarily powerful. We must not be careless." He had witnessed the power of the heaven-destroying sword formation when he was at the Starry Cliff in the star-devouring grotto heaven. At that time, if it wasn't for the protection of the primordial chaos bell, the elders would have been seriously injured even if they didn't die. Even he himself might not have been able to escape unscathed. The Grand Priest, Tao Yuxing, and the 2 elders of the Tao Tai clan did not need his reminder. They were extremely cautious as they went all out to deal with the sword light that blotted out the sky. As for Xueshang and the Right Guardian, they were not too vigilant. Humph, it's just a sword formation that looks extravagant. What's there to be afraid of? He only has a few hours at most to set up this sword formation. How powerful can it be? Xueshang snorted disdainfully as he looked at the sword light vortexes that descended from the sky. He charged forward bravely and swung his fists to throw out 2 fist shadows that were the size of mountains. He wanted to destroy the sword light vortexes in front of everyone without using any divine weapons. In this way, he could not only display his bravery and the strength of the Cheongqi clan, but he could also fiercely intimidate Ji Tianqing. The Right Guardian and the 20 elites of the Bloodbath Hall saw the Tao Tai clan's supreme gods in a defensive posture as if they were facing a great enemy. Their clan leader charged forward bravely. Instantly, they felt their blood boiling as pride and anticipation welled up in their hearts. If they were not fighting a great battle, they would definitely take the opportunity to mock the Tao Tai clan's supreme gods. "Ha, look at how timid you are. What a bunch of cowards. Look at how valiant our clan leader is. Just as this thought flashed through everyone's minds, Xueshang had already collided with the sword light vortexes. Boom! Crack! Amidst the deafening loud noise, the two fist shadows that Xueshang threw out smashed the sword light vortexes. Even though the two fist shadows were also smashed and turned into divine light fragments that scattered in all directions. However, the sword light vortexes being destroyed by Xueshang in one move still greatly boosted the Qiongqi clan's morale. Looking at the Taotai clan again, they actually hit around Tao Yongsheng. Meanwhile, Tao Yongsheng cast a spell to activate the primordial chaos bell, causing it to expand to a radius of 100,000 feet. It was like a huge shield that protected him and the Taotai clan's elders. Bam! 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 7 sword light vortexes and sword rain came down one after another, but they were all blocked by the primordial chaos bell. Everyone was unharmed. Even though they were unharmed, they all lowered their heads and felt ashamed. Their old faces were burning. After all, the Qiongqi clan's right guardian and the elites of the blood slaughter hall were looking at them with cold smiles and disdain. Even if they didn't say anything, the Taotai clan's people felt very embarrassed. The high priest hesitated and sent a voice transmission to Tao Yongsheng. Clan leader, we can't hide in the primordial chaos bell. We will be laughed at by the Qiongqi clan. Anyway, you and I don't fear the power of this sword formation. Why don't the two of us kill Long Tian? Use this primordial chaos bell to protect the 3 elders. Tao Yongsheng thought for a moment and nodded. Alright, then we will do as you say. Then he handed the primordial chaos bell to Tao Yuxing to control. He and the high priest both took out their divine weapons and charged out of the primordial chaos bell bravely but cautiously, attacking Ji Tianqing high in the sky. Bam! 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 Countless starry swords, sword light vortexes, and storms kept attacking the primordial chaos bell, but to no avail. The 3 elders of the Taotai clan stayed in the range of the primordial chaos bell and felt very safe. However, it was still embarrassing for them to hide under the primordial chaos bell while the others were fighting bravely. The 3 of them discussed in secret. When the power of the sword formation weakened, they would also charge out and fight Ji Tianqing for a few hundred rounds. Only in this way would they not let today's battle become a disgrace to them. On the other side, Xueshang and the Right Guardian relied on their strength to charge wildly in the sky and destroy one ball of sword light after another. They locked onto Ji Tianqing's aura and charged left and right in the sword rain, trying to get close to Ji Tianqing. However, the 20 elites of the blood slaughter hall suffered a calamity and were quickly annihilated. Chapter 36-46. The Right Guardian had given the elites of the Hall of Bloody Slaughter a king high-grade divine artifact to save their lives. It was an old and shabby 10,000 demon banner. It released a thick blood-red light that formed a light shield to protect everyone. However, the 10,000 demon banner needed divine power to unleash its power. The 20 elites of the Hall of Bloody Slaughter hid in the blood-red light shield. They focused on unleashing the 10,000 demon banner to maintain the blood-red light shield. Unfortunately, their strength was too weak. The blood-red light shield withstood the attacks of the 10,000 swords. In the blink of an eye, it was full of cracks. It was on the verge of shattering. The elites of the Hall of Bloody Slaughter were so scared that their faces turned pale. They unleashed their divine power to control the 10,000 demon banner to repair the cracks on the shield. Unfortunately, the 10,000 demon banner was the Right Guardian's natal divine artifact. They rarely touched it or used it. They only knew the basic control chants of the 10,000 demon banner. They couldn't unleash the power of the 10,000 demon banner, nor could they perform profound and high-end operations. Therefore, they soon met with a tragedy. Kaboom! Crack, 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 when the rain of swords came again, the blood-red light shield that was full of cracks couldn't withstand it anymore. It was smashed into pieces and fell apart. Countless blood-red fragments of divine light splashed in all directions. The 20 elites of the Hall of Bloody Slaughter were also drowned by the rain of swords. They let out heart-wrenching cries of despair. Ah! Almost every elite of the Hall of Bloody Slaughter was hit by dozens of giant swords. Their bodies were blasted into smithereens, and their godheads were also shattered into dregs. They were truly annihilated. In the blink of an eye, the 20 elites of the Blood Slaughter Hall were all dead. Not a single one was spared. Their cries were still echoing in the sky, but they were soon drowned out by the deafening explosions. High up in the sky, the 4LV9 Divine King Realm experts broke through all the obstacles and destroyed dozens of sword-light whirlpools and storms. Finally, they surrounded Ji Tianqing. Even though Ji Tianqing dashed left and right, fleeing at top speed and even using his teleportation divine ability, Ji Tianqing still couldn't escape. However, his strength was somewhat weak, and he seemed to be lacking in strength. Soon, he was heavily surrounded. Xueshang, the Right Guardian, Tao Yongsheng, and the High Priest stood in 4 different directions, staring at him with murderous eyes. They grinned cruelly. I've already said this long ago. What bullshit sword formation? It's all flashy stuff. In front of absolute strength, these are all jokes. Xueshang sneered with a ferocious face. His hands returned to the original shape of the Qiong Qi's claws, sparkling with a cold light. Tao Yongsheng also grinned coldly and said in a mocking tone, Long Tian, you are indeed heavily injured and weak. Don't you have a few guards around you? Why didn't you call them to protect you? This is your last chance. If you don't make them show themselves, you will die. Actually, he was somewhat anxious when he didn't see Bai Feng, Chao Qingyu, Yank, and Peng Fei. He knew that these guards must be in Ji Tianqing's personal divine artifact. If he killed Ji Tianqing like this, then Ji Tianqing's corpse, godhead, and divine artifact would all belong to Xueshang. He wouldn't be able to get any benefits. Previously, he had already discussed the terms with Xueshang. Other than Ji Tianqing's corpse, godhead, and equipment, everything else would belong to him. In that case, he could at least get the Phoenix bloodline and the Golden Rock bloodline to comfort himself. Ji Tianqing, who was surrounded by 4 people, was obviously weak, but he still pretended to be calm. This sword formation is enough to deal with you. I don't need any guards at all. After saying that, he waved the Burial of Heaven sword and slashed out a dazzling sword light toward the weakest high priest in an attempt to break out of the encirclement. The high priest was used as a breakthrough point, and he was quite angry. Originally, he would avoid the attack and cast a spell to stop Ji Tianqing. For the sake of his dignity and face, he chose to fight head-on and not give an inch. Invincible blood slash. The high priest roared angrily and waved the blood-red divine sword with both hands, splashing out a sky full of sword shadows to attack. Bam! 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 The blood-red sword light collided with the sky full of sword light, and there was a deafening explosion. Suddenly, the sword light and the sword light collapsed at the same time, exploding into fragments of divine light. The violent impact and the dozens of starry giant swords that took the opportunity to attack fiercely sent the high priest flying. Puff, while he was still flying in the air, his face was distorted and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Although the high priest's injuries were not serious and did not affect his ability to continue fighting, he was sent flying. Ji Tianqing took the opportunity to rush out of the encirclement and escape the heaven-destroying sword formation. This sword formation was set up by him, so he could enter and leave at will. Xueshang, Tao Yongsheng, and the others could not. Once he left the heaven-destroying sword formation, if they wanted to chase after him, they would have to cast a spell to break the sword formation. In that case, it would take at least 2 hours. Where could they find him? This thought flashed through the minds of Xueshang, Tao Yongsheng, and the Right Guardian at the same time, and they became anxious. Stop him, we can't let him escape. We can't let him escape from the sword formation. Otherwise, it will be difficult for us to catch up with him. Don't hold back anymore, don't fail miserably. The three of them roared at the same time and exploded with their fastest speed. They used their ultimate killer moves and attacked Ji Tianqing at the same time. Death Sword of Heavenly Sun. Million Slaughter of Blood Sea. 9 Heavens Dark Sky Attack. Along with the three people's angry roars, 3 extremely powerful secret techniques shone with a divine light that was even more dazzling than the scorching sun, engulfing Ji Tianqing's figure. Boom! 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 In the sky full of sword light and blood light, Ji Tianqing was hit by the 3 divine powers and the protective divine light shattered on the spot. Then, the armor that he was wearing shattered into pieces and countless pieces fell to the ground. Then, his body exploded with a bang and turned into charred pieces that filled the sky and splashed out in all directions. The pitch-black pieces mixed with the divine light and chi waves and swiftly swept across thousands of miles, filling the entire Heaven Punishment Sword formation. In the blink of an eye, the sky regained its clarity. Xueshang, Tao Yongxing, the High Priest, and the Right Guardian all looked at the sky in shock. It was empty in front of everyone. Ji Tianqing no longer existed. The 4 of them had complicated expressions and they were all stunned and stunned. It's over just like that. He's killed just like that. That's not right. Even if he's seriously injured and his power is greatly reduced, he shouldn't be so weak, right? Everyone, don't think too much. Although he killed several upper-level God Kings earlier, he's not a peak God King and he's seriously injured. We're all 9th stage realm God Kings, so it's natural for us to join forces and kill him. Hearing the Right Guardian's analysis, everyone felt that it made sense. But when Xueshang regained his senses, he was filled with rage as he roared with a black face, "Bastard! Tao Yongxing! You despicable villain! You blasted him into dregs, crushed his bones and scattered his ashes. Where will this seat go to find the Dragon Clan's bloodline?" Tao Yongxing's expression stiffened and was about to explain. Suddenly, the High Priest and Right Guardian's bodies stiffened and without any warning, they opened their mouths and spat out a large mouthful of foul blood. The 2 of them seemed to have understood something and instantly opened their eyes wide, revealing an intense horror. Wrong! This Long Tian is fake. There's a trap in here, we've fallen into a trap again. The 2 of them cried out in shock at the same time as their bodies started to tremble. Their faces also turned pale as bean-sized beads of sweat appeared on their foreheads. Seeing their reaction, Xueshang and Tao Yongxing were filled with vigilance as they hurriedly asked, "What's going on? Why did the 2 of you?" Without waiting for the High Priest and Right Guardian to answer, Xueshang's body also trembled and suddenly his vision turned black. He only felt the god power in his body surging violently, his god blood was almost burning and his consciousness also became blurry. "There's poison!" he subconsciously shouted. Chapter 36-47. The High Priest and Right Guardian were slightly weaker than Xueshang and Tao Yongxing. Especially the High Priest, who had been injured when Long Tian broke out of the encirclement. As a result, he was the first to be poisoned and also the most severely. His vision had turned black, and his body was trembling. His divine blood was burning, and his body was about to explode. He had no choice but to sit cross-legged in the sky and protect himself with his divine sword. He quickly used his power to suppress his injuries. The Right Guardian's situation was not much better. He only felt that his divine power was chaotic, his divine blood was boiling, and he was about to explode. He could not speak, so he closed his eyes and quickly used his power to heal his injuries. Although Xueshang and Tao Yongxing were poisoned, they were not injured and were less affected by the strong poison. The 2 of them used their profound power to suppress the violent divine power and divine blood and tried their best to keep their minds clear. It is indeed poisonous. The Long Tian that we killed just now was also fake. I understand now. The fake Long Tian just now should have been formed by some kind of divine weapon or superpower, and it contained strong poison. We smashed it into pieces, and the strong poison took the opportunity to spread. We were not prepared and were invaded by the strong poison. Xueshang and Tao Yongxing discussed and quickly guessed the source of the strong poison. In fact, they guessed right. But the problem now was, what kind of poison were they poisoned with? Damn it, what kind of poison is this? It is invisible and colorless, and there is no abnormality at all. Damn beast, you only know how to use such sinister and despicable methods. Xueshang and Tao Yongxing were full of anger. They secretly used their power to check their divine bodies several times, but they could not find where the strong poison was, let alone what kind of poison it was. But their symptoms were that they were poisoned. If we don't know what kind of poison it is, we can't neutralize it and get rid of it. Don't worry so much, let's first protect everyone out of the sword formation, then think of a way to neutralize the strong poison. Xueshang and Tao Yongxing quickly reached a consensus and decided to escort everyone out of the Heaven Punishment Sword formation. The High Priest and Right Guardian situation finally stabilized, and the two of them used their power to temporarily suppress their injuries. With Xueshang and Tao Yongxing by their side to help them block countless sword radiances, they were in a relatively safe situation. However, when they turned their heads to look down and saw the situation clearly, their expressions immediately changed. The 20 blood slaughter hall elites of the Cheongqi clan had long been killed by the sword light. The 3 elders of the Taotai clan were also in a tragic state. They were on the verge of death. Previously, they had been hiding in the barrier of the Bell of Chaos and could barely resist the sword light. However, when they saw Long Tian being besieged by 4 powerhouses and had no choice but to flee, they felt that the opportunity to perform had arrived. We can't keep hiding in the Bell of Chaos. This will become our humiliation. We have to make a move at the right time to help the Patriarch and the others attack Long Tian. Only then can we wash away our humiliation. This was a joint decision made by the 3 elders. Therefore, they decisively left the Chaos Bell's barrier and bravely brandished their sabers and swords. They passed through the blockade of the sword beams that filled the sky and charged at Long Tian, who was fleeing in a sorry state. Unfortunately, before they could even get close to Long Tian was killed by the joint forces of the 4 experts. The 3 elders felt that it was a pity that they had yet to display their bravery. However, this was also good. If they killed Long Tian earlier, this matter would be over. However, what the 3 elders did not expect was that Long Tian was blasted into pieces that filled the sky. They spread in all directions with the violent shockwave. The dazzling shockwave of divine light swept over with a large amount of pitch-black debris. When the 3 elders broke through the sword rain that filled the sky, they had all suffered some injuries, light or heavy. When the colorful shockwave attacked, the 3 of them could not dodge. They were all sent flying and spat out blood. At that moment, they had fallen 50 kilometers away. They were all covered in blood and looked miserable. They had thought that the matter was over. Even if they were seriously injured, it was not bad to be able to preserve their lives. They could heal their injuries after leaving the sword formation. Unexpectedly, the 3 of them were invaded by the poison. Soon, their divine bodies swelled, their divine blood burned, and their divine power became chaotic. The 3 of them burned with dark red blood flames. Their divine bodies swelled and twisted wantonly like monsters. Their internal organs were shattered. Their divine blood, meridians, and bone marrow were burned to ashes, bringing them extreme heart-wrenching pain. Ah! The 3 of them let out shrill screams. They struggled madly in the sky, rolling and rolling to lessen the pain. Unfortunately, it was all in vain. The invisible poison not only invaded their divine bodies, it even invaded their consciousness and tainted their divinities. Soon, the three elders fell into a coma. Their divine bodies were burned to pieces, and black ashes scattered all over the sky. High in the sky, Tao Yongsheng and Xue Shang saw this scene with their own eyes. They were both shocked and angry. Especially Tao Yongsheng. He was so angry that his eyes were about to pop out. He roared and rushed over. Swoosh! He rushed to the three elders' side, trying to cast a spell to suppress their injuries and save their lives. Even if he could not save their bodies, he had to save their divinities. Otherwise, if the three elders died here, the Taotai clan would suffer an unprecedented loss. However, Tao Yongsheng tried several methods, but he could not suppress the three elders' injuries. There were thousands of starry giant swords in all directions, continuously stabbing at him. He not only had to use his power to suppress his injuries, but he also had to resist the strangulation of the giant swords. He also had to cast a spell to save the three elders. No matter how strong he was powerless at this moment. There was nothing he could do to save the situation. Xue Shang, are you standing there and watching the show? Quickly come and help. Tao Yongsheng, who was anxious, angry, and helpless, really could not save the three elders. He roared at Xue Shang, who was above his head. Xue Shang also felt wronged. His face immediately darkened. He pointed at the high priest and right guardian behind him and shouted angrily at Tao Yongsheng, if I go and help you, what about them? Will they be killed by the thousands of swords? Indeed, the high priest and right guardian had been invaded by the poison and had been using their power to suppress their injuries. At this moment, they were at their weakest and had no power to protect themselves at all. Relying on their divine weapons alone, they could not block the attacks of the thousands of swords. If it were not for Xue Shang casting a spell to help them block most of the sword light, the two of them would have been strangled to pieces by the sword light. Tao Yongsheng suddenly lost his temper. He also knew that Xue Shang could not free himself to help. Ah! Long Tian, you damned beast, bastard! Don't let me catch you. I will definitely make you pay with your blood 10 times. Tao Yongsheng, who was about to go crazy, roared hysterically, looking up to the sky and cursing. Before meeting Long Tian, he was the lofty and awe-inspiring Taotai clan leader. He could call the wind and summon the rain. He was omnipotent. No one dared to disobey his will. But now, for the first time, he experienced the emotions of weakness, helplessness, anger, and helplessness. Book Guest House Reading Website. Chapter 36-48. Long Tian didn't even show up. He just used a little trick and made the Taotai and Cheong Cheese pay such a terrible price. Tao Yongsheng couldn't help but think that if Long Tian had used this poison in the star-devouring grotto heaven, how terrible would the consequences be. Those thousands of Taotai clansmen wouldn't have been able to escape and would have all been turned into ashes, right? Thinking of this, Tao Yongsheng felt a lingering fear and couldn't help but shiver. Sizzle, not long after, the bodies of Tao Yuxing and the two elders were burned to ashes by the blood fire. The three of them were burned to ashes, leaving only 3 shining godheads floating in the sky. Of course, the 3 godheads were also stained with a layer of dark blue light, and dark red blood fire rose. Even if their bodies are destroyed, as long as the godheads are still there is still a chance to recover. I can't protect their bodies, but I have to protect their godheads no matter what. Tao Yongsheng could only settle for the second best. He could only accept this cruel reality and the consequences. He was about to cast a spell to suppress the dark blue light and blood fire on the 3 godheads and seal them. At this moment, a familiar voice suddenly sounded in the sky. I gave you a chance to mend your ways. Unfortunately, you refused. Are you satisfied with the result now? It was his voice. It was still so calm, cold, and emotionless. When this voice sounded in the sky, Tao Yongsheng and Xue Shang raised their heads instinctively and glared at the highest point of the sword formation. 30,000 feet above the ground, Ji Tianqing was wearing a white robe and was covered in golden light. He was looking down at them expressionlessly. He was not injured at all and was in peak condition. Not only was his divine power not weakened, but it was also several times stronger than before. Xue Shang and Tao Yongsheng were instantly furious. Their eyes were blood red, and their bodies burst with anger and killing intent. Ah! Long Tian! You despicable and sinister beast, I will burn your bones to ashes. Unparalleled anger rushed to Tao Yongsheng's head. He ignored the three elders' godheads and activated the primordial chaos bell, charging towards Ji Tianqing with murderous intent. On the other hand, Xue Shang was quite calm. He frowned and stared at Ji Tianqing. He thought to himself, so this is his real body. He really isn't injured. His divine aura is actually on par with mine. Could he be a ninth-stage god king as well? This was impossible. If he really has such strength and realm, he must be a famous powerhouse in the dragon clan. There's no way I haven't heard of him. Long Tian was heavily injured and fled in a sorry state, was something that Xue Shang had made up himself. The reason he told Tao Yongsheng this was because he had selfish motives. He wanted Tao Yongsheng to come over as soon as possible so that they could work together to deal with Long Tian. Previously, he had suspected that after Long Tian had killed the left protector and the three elders, he might not have been injured and had escaped unscathed. However, he had always been uncertain and felt that it was unlikely. Now that he had seen Long Tian with his own eyes, his guesses were confirmed. Waves of shock surged in his heart, and he was exceptionally shocked. Shua! In the blink of an eye, Tao Yongsheng had rushed up to the sky. He was still 100,000 feet away from Ji Tianqing. His entire body surged with blood light as he activated the primordial chaos bell with all his might. He released 9 blood-red giant swords which struck towards Ji Tianqing. Although the primordial chaos bell was a defensive god relic and its most powerful effect was in its defensive power. However, it wasn't that it couldn't attack. It was just that its offensive power was slightly weaker. Even so, it was after all a king-grade god relic. Under Tao Yongsheng's full activation, the 9 blood swords released were shockingly powerful. If Ji Tianqing faced it head-on, it was highly possible that he would be heavily injured. Therefore, when the 9 blood swords came towards him, he didn't block it. Instead, he took a step back with an indifferent expression. Shua! A white light flashed and he retreated 10 feet. He passed through the heaven punishment sword array and stood in the sky outside the array. He didn't do anything and just looked at Tao Yongsheng expressionlessly. Kaboom! The 9 blood swords, which were 1,000 feet long, hit the light wall of the heaven punishment sword array and there was a deafening sound. The silver light wall shook violently and the sword array within a radius of 10,000 miles shook violently. There were layers of ripples and starry silver light. However, the terrifying impact of the 9 blood swords was quickly neutralized by the sword array. The 9 blood swords were smashed into pieces and turned into countless pieces of blood light that scattered in the sky. There was no doubt that Tao Yongsheng's full attack with the primordial chaos bell was unable to destroy the heaven punishment sword array. He was stunned. He stared at the light wall of the sword array and then looked at the primordial chaos bell in his hand. He was in a mess. Xue Shang cast a spell to protect the Grand Priest and the Right Guardian as he watched the battle. He didn't act rashly. When he saw the outcome, he frowned and his pupils contracted. There was a flash of astonishment in his eyes. This sword array is so powerful. Tao Yongsheng activated the primordial chaos bell. No one except a peak divine king could block the full attack. This sword array was set up in a hurry. It can't be a supreme king level divine array, right? Xue Shang couldn't accept the outcome. He couldn't imagine how terrifying Long Tian's array skills would be if the truth was as he guessed. The great array fell into silence for a while. Tao Yongxing couldn't back down. He was stunned and didn't know what to do. Continue to attack. Not only would he not be able to destroy the sword array, but he would also be humiliated. Stop and make peace. The Tao Tai tribe would be humiliated and he would rather kill himself. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Ji Tianqing appeared calm and collected on the surface, but he secretly controlled the heaven-destroying sword formation and quietly devoured the godheads of the three elders. That was right. The divinities of Tao Yuxing and the two elders were still wrapped in dark blue light and crimson fire. They were floating in the sky. Ji Tianqing's target was their divinities. How could he let them go? Swoosh! There was a flash of white light and the divinities of the three elders disappeared. Tao Yongxing, who was still in a daze, suddenly felt that something was wrong. He looked down and searched for the divinities of the three elders. At this moment, Ji Tianqing spoke again and pulled his attention back. Those who are unjust are doomed to destruction. The Tao Tai tribe and the Cheong Chi tribe have done many evil things since ancient times. What happened before had nothing to do with me, so I naturally wouldn't care. But it's a pity that all of you are relentlessly pursuing this prince and will not stop until one of you is dead. Then don't blame this prince for being ruthless. As he spoke, he stepped into the Heaven Punishment Sword array and took out the real burial of Heaven Sword. He walked toward Tao Yongxing. Tao Yongxing instinctively retreated and wanted to hide in the primordial chaos bell with the injured high priest. At this moment, Xue Shang suddenly raised his eyebrows and shouted, "Hold on." As expected, Ji Tianqing stopped in his tracks. The battle intent and the imperious aura emitting from his body came to a stop too. You finally thought it through and want to surrender? Chapter 36-49. Ji Tianqing squinted at Xue Shang with a sneer at the corner of his mouth. Xue Shang's face stiffened, and there was a flash of anger in his eyes. But he immediately suppressed his anger and said with a cold face, "Long Tian, today is the first time I've met you. Although you killed the left protector and 3 elders of my clan and have a blood feud with my clan. But I have to say that we did underestimate you before. Your scheming, means, and strength are enough to make me look at you with new eyes." Hearing his words, the sneer on Ji Tianqing's face grew even thicker. This was obviously the prelude to surrender and ask for peace. Next, there was a twist, and it was logical. Tao Yongxing also realized this point, and immediately became anxious. He glared at Xue Shang and asked with a voice transmission, "Xue Shang, what do you mean?" Xue Shang ignored him and looked straight at Ji Tianqing. He continued to ask in a deep voice, "I'm very curious. You only have 6 to 8 hours at most. How can you set up a king-level sword formation in this surging sun lake?" Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and said in a playful tone, "Anyway, you are all going to die. Is there any meaning in asking this now?" Xue Shang frowned fiercely and suppressed his anger again. He said in a deep voice, "Of course there's meaning. I've also met many Dragon Clan experts, but I've never seen such a monster like you." Tao Yongxing frowned and the anger in his chest grew. He scolded again with a voice transmission, "Xue Shang, are you old and confused? He's our enemy. Why are you praising him? Are you King scared and want to surrender and ask for peace? As the saying goes, don't hit a smiling person." Since Xue Shang praised him so sincerely, Ji Tianqing satisfied his curiosity a little. He sneered and said, "This sword formation is my life's unique skill that I've comprehended for hundreds of years. In addition, I happen to be good at formations." These 2 simple sentences didn't reveal much information. But Xue Shang did not ask and continued to ask, "The fake person just now was exactly the same as you. Even the divine power aura and divine soul fluctuations were normal. But after the fake body exploded, there was no divine blood, only poison. I've met many divine kings who are good at using poison, but I've never seen this kind of poison method. How did you do it? Hearing this question, Tao Yongsheng was stunned. Then, he came to a sudden realization and thought to himself, so that's how it is. No wonder Xue Shang pretended to be weak and praised Long Tian. It turned out that he wanted to inquire about the poison. After all, Long Tian was too young. After being praised by Xue Shang, his confidence was inflated. Perhaps he would reveal some crucial information. In this way, we might be able to find a way to neutralize the poison. Xue Shang is truly sinister enough to endure humiliation. Thinking, the way he looked at Xue Shang's eyes changed. Xue Shang of looked. He looked at Xue Shang and said slowly, I knew you would ask this question. That's what you're most concerned about, right? After all, you won't be able to neutralize the innate fiend soul transference poison in a short time. Innate fiend soul transference poison. Hearing these words, Tao Yongsheng and Xue Shang frowned and pondered. However, they searched the memories of their divine souls and did not find any relevant information. What kind of poison is this? I'm quite knowledgeable, so why haven't I heard of it? Xue Shang asked in confusion. Ji Tianqing sneered, of course you haven't heard of it. This poison is a unique secret method that I've researched. I've only used it 4 or 5 times. I see. No wonder. Tao Yongsheng and Xue Shang were enlightened. Ji Tianqing continued, speaking of which, I've spent a lot of effort to deal with you. Your so-called fake body is one of this king's clones. I used the innate fiend soul transference poison to refine the doppelganger into a poisonous body, making it completely toxic. Not to mention the doppelganger's divine body, even the doppelganger's hair was made of poison. Originally, the doppelganger's strength was weaker, so there were still some flaws. But you were too confident, too arrogant, and eager to kill me. Naturally, you ignored those flaws. Hearing this, Tao Yongsheng and Xue Shang could not help but nod in agreement. That's right, Ji Tianqing's analysis was right. If they were not so confident and arrogant, and were more cautious before attacking, they would not have fallen into the trap. Unfortunately, time could not be turned back. Now, regarding the fake body and the poison, Ji Tianqing had explained the process. Xue Shang's goal had been achieved. However, he and Tao Yongsheng looked at each other and realized something was wrong. Although he told us the truth, we still don't know how to resolve the innate fiend soul transference poison. This guy is sinister and cunning. We can't believe all of his words. Maybe even the name innate fiend soul transference poison is fake. The two of them communicated telepathically and despaired again. At this time, Ji Tianqing looked at Xue Shang with a smile and said, I've said all that needs to be said. You should be on your way. As he spoke, he raised the sword of burial of heaven again. Holy and violent divine power was accumulated in his body, and he was ready to attack. Tao Yongsheng suddenly felt as if he was facing a great enemy. He hurriedly released his divine power and poured it into the primordial chaos bell, activating the divine light shield. Xue Shang also took a few steps back and hurriedly took out a divine and majestic skeleton that was shining with golden light. That's right, it was a dark golden skeleton of a Qiongqi beast that was hundreds of feet tall. Swoosh! He pulled the right guardian with one hand and hid in the skeleton of the Qiongqi beast without hesitation. Ji Tianqing did not know which Qiongqi beast skeleton it was. But from the fluctuations of divine power emitted by the skeleton, he knew that it was equivalent to a Supreme King-level divine artifact. Therefore, he did not hesitate to attack Tao Yongsheng with his sword. Sword of Daytime. From hundreds of thousands of feet away, Ji Tianqing stabbed with the sword of burial of heaven fiercely. A cold light suddenly appeared and then expanded infinitely, like a scorching sun, and blasted toward Tao Yongsheng. The mighty divine power and the sword intent that could destroy heaven and earth suppressed Tao Yongxing fiercely. Tao Yongxing's face was solemn. He formed a divine art with both hands and desperately activated the primordial chaos bell to protect himself. He had already suffered a few losses at the hands of Ji Tianqing. He did not dare to be careless and underestimate his enemy again. He had to fight with all his strength. The golden scorching sun was about to hit the blood-red shield of the primordial chaos bell. At this time, Ji Tianqing suddenly turned his sword and slashed at the high priest not far away with all his strength. Sword of world destruction. In order to kill with one blow, he did not hesitate to draw on the power of the five elements realm and slashed out a giant golden blade that was 3,000 feet long. The poor high priest was sitting cross-legged in the sky, using all his strength to suppress the soul-transferring poison. He could not escape at all. When he realized that death was coming and opened his eyes in horror, it was already too late. Chapter 3650. Boom! Following a deafening muffled explosion, the daylight sword struck the blood-light shield fiercely. The sword light that was like a golden sun was shattered into pieces on the spot, scattering divine light fragments all over the sky. And that blood-light shield only shook violently for dozens of times and cracked open a few shallow cracks. The primordial chaos bell trembled a few times and quickly returned to normal. Tao Yongxing, who was hiding in the blood-light shield, was also safe and sound. However, this result was destined. Under the situation where Ji Tianqing did not use his ultimate killer move, it was impossible to shake the defense of the king-level top-grade god artifact. Even if he used all his trump cards, he would not be able to break the primordial chaos bell's shield. In other words, as long as Tao Yongxing hid in the primordial chaos bell, he would be in an invincible position. Therefore, no one paid attention to the power of the daylight sword. Tao Yongxing and Xue Shang's gazes were gathered on the high priest. Boom! The massive blade of golden light, which was 30,000 feet long, slashed toward the high priest with an apocalyptic might that seemed capable of slicing through all matter. There was a blood-light shield around him, which was temporarily set up by Xue Shang to block the sword rain attack. After being hit by the golden light giant sword, the blood-light shield collapsed directly, exploding into fragments all over the sky. Immediately after, the golden light giant sword sent the high priest's divine saber flying, sending it flying 10,000 feet away. The high priest, who lost 2 layers of defense, was finally hit by the golden light giant sword and his figure was swallowed by the golden light. The moment he was hit by the golden light giant sword, he was like ice and snow under the scorching sun, melting rapidly. He was not split into 2 halves, nor was he fragmented into pieces. Instead, he directly turned into ashes, his divine body rapidly melting. Seeing this scene, Xue Shang and Tao Yongxing's pupils constricted, their eyes revealing deep shock and fear. Heavens, the power of this sword technique is actually so terrifying. The high priest is a 9th stage realm god king at any rate, he was actually insta-killed by him. Both of them were terrified, not only because the high priest was insta-killed. It was also because both of them felt a great threat from that sacred and resplendent sword light. The power of that sword technique was enough to threaten their lives. The two of them couldn't help but think and analyze. If Ji Tianqing had used this sword technique against them, would they have been able to block it? This question seemed to be very difficult to answer. It wasn't until the two of them looked at the life-saving artifact beside them that they both breathed a sigh of relief. Tao Yongxing had the primordial chaos bell, while Xue Shang had the Qiong-Qi ancestors' indestructible golden body. With a divine artifact of this level in hand, unless the God Emperor, who had surpassed the divine king level, made a move, it would be very difficult to kill them. After a short while, the deafening noise gradually disappeared, and the fragments of divine light that filled the sky also dissipated. With a wave of his hand, Ji Tianqing grabbed a godhead covered in cracks and stored it into his spatial ring. Clearly, the severely damaged godhead belonged to the high priest. Strictly speaking, it was only his body that had been destroyed and his godhead that had been severely damaged. He hadn't died yet. However, his godhead had been shattered, and his consciousness had fallen into a coma. Falling into Ji Tianqing's hands was equivalent to dying. At this point, only Ji Tianqing, Xue Shang, and Tao Yongxing were left in the heaven-destroying sword formation. The atmosphere became extremely solemn. Only the whistling of sword radiance that filled the sky and the muffled sound of constantly colliding with the Qiong Qi's skeleton and the crimson light shield was left. Now that things had developed to this stage, Tao Yongxing was completely disheartened and gradually calmed down. Other than him and the two elders who had stayed behind to guard the star-devouring cave, the high priest and a few other elders had died under Ji Tianqing's sword one after another. In addition, close to 1,000 clan members and young elites had also been killed by Ji Tianqing. To the Taotai clan, this was second only to the calamity of clan annihilation. The loss was extremely tragic. Not to mention that the Taotai clan needed a few thousand years to recover, it was hard to say whether they could maintain their position as one of the 7 noble families of the demon clan in the future. At this moment, Tao Yongxing's heart was really dead, and he was completely hopeless. He swore that no matter what, he would never be angered by Ji Tianqing and would never step out of the primordial chaos bell's protective shield. Otherwise, Ji Tianqing would most likely kill him too. If it was in the past, he would never have such thoughts and would even think it was ridiculous. But now, after experiencing a series of setbacks and seeing Ji Tianqing's strength and means, he had to be vigilant. He stayed in the bloody light shield and secretly operated his power to maintain the primordial chaos bell's defense. His eyes stared viciously at Ji Tianqing, but he did not say a word. No matter what he said now, he would only be humiliating himself. On the other side, Xue Shang had the same thoughts and attitude. While maintaining the Qiongqi ancestors' indestructible golden body, he operated his power to suppress the right guardian's injury. He looked at Ji Tianqing expressionlessly and remained silent. Although the left guardian and 3 elders had been killed by Ji Tianqing, and 38 elites of the Blood Slaughter Hall had also died under Ji Tianqing's sword. But compared to the tragic experience of the Taotai clan, he suddenly felt that the loss of the Qiongqi clan was nothing. In fact, he even rejoiced at his own wit. Fortunately, I knew that this boy's strength was high, so I only brought the right guardian and 20 elites of the Blood Slaughter Hall. If I also brought a few elders, I'm afraid they would all be killed by him now, right? Thinking of this, Xue Shang was secretly relieved, but also very regretful. He hated the damn Tao Yongxing and regretted that he had agreed to help. If he could turn back time, he would never help the Taotai clan for benefits. It seems that you plan to hide in your turtle shell and don't dare to take action. Don't you want to avenge your clansmen? Ji Tianqing looked at Tao Yongxing and then at Xue Shang, and a playful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. His tone was somewhat mocking. Xue Shang and Tao Yongxing's faces flushed red, and they were quite ashamed and angry. But they kept their rationality and suppressed their shame and anger, glaring angrily at Ji Tianqing. Bastard, the Taotai clan will never forget such a deep blood feud. Even if you can be rampant for a while, our Taotai clan has existed since ancient times and is still glorious and prosperous. There is a reason for that. One day, we will return today's humiliation tenfold, no, 100-fold. Tao Yongxing stared at Ji Tianqing, gritting his teeth and swearing. Ji Tianqing glanced at him and sneered, in that case, I can only cut the weeds and eliminate the roots to prevent future troubles. You have the primordial chaos bell, so you can hide in it to protect yourself. But the Taotai clan in the devouring star cave, humph. There was no need for Ji Tianqing to say the following words. Everyone understood what he meant. Tao Yongxing's face suddenly turned pale, and his heart was in his throat. How dare you? He subconsciously roared and pointed at Ji Tianqing. He was so angry that his entire body was trembling. The divine power in his body went berserk, and his blood flowed backward. He almost vomited blood again. Ha ha ha. Ji Tianqing just sneered disdainfully and did not say much. But Tao Yongsheng and Xue Shang knew that not only did he dare, but he could also do it. Chapter 36:51. After a while, Tao Yongsheng's aura weakened. Now he was trapped in the heaven-destroying sword formation, and the high priest and 3 elders under him were killed. Not only did he not have any help, but he also did not have the confidence to fight Ji Tianqing head-on. He did not even know if he could break the sword formation and escape. He really did not have the qualifications or the confidence to threaten Ji Tianqing. If Ji Tianqing really wanted to destroy the star-devouring cave, he could only go crazy in the sword formation and was powerless to stop it. So, he suddenly regretted that he should have thought about those ruthless words in his heart and never shouted them out in front of his face. It was too wrong, too stupid. Seeing that Tao Yongsheng had suddenly become dispirited and seemed to have given up, Ji Tianqing revealed a regretful expression. What? Weren't you full of murderous intent just now, threatening to make me pay back 10 times, 100 times? Tao Yongsheng lowered his head and did not look him in the eyes. He was full of anger and did not say a word. But his fists were clenched tightly in his sleeves, and his nails pierced into his palms. It was obvious that he was furious. Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and said expressionlessly, "Although I am very interested in those mineral veins in the star-devouring cave, the heavens have mercy. However, the heavens have the virtue of cherishing life, and this prince is not a bloodthirsty person. Tao Yongsheng, I'll give you one last chance. Admit your guilt and surrender to me now, apologize, and swear in the name of the heavenly Tao that the Taotai clan will not take revenge on me. Only then will I spare your life and spare the Taotai clan's life." Tao Yongsheng subconsciously raised his head and glared at Ji Tianqing. He was about to reject this extremely humiliating request. However, the curses that he was about to blurt out were forcefully swallowed back down. He had already suffered so many losses, and he had learned to be smart. Ji Tianqing just said that this was the last chance. Although in Tao Yongsheng's eyes, he was sinister, despicable, cruel and vicious. But there was one thing that he had to admit, he was a man of his words. So, Tao Yongsheng did not dare to be impulsive, and he did not dare to gamble the fate of the Taotai clan. He suppressed the anger and humiliation in his heart and clenched his fists so tightly that they creaked. He was hesitating and weighing the pros and cons in his heart. Ji Tianqing did not force him. He said in an indifferent tone, "You have 10 breaths of time to consider. Think carefully before you make a decision." After saying this, he looked at the Cheong Qi skeleton not far away, and his gaze fell on Xue Shang. "Patriarch Xue Shang, it's time for you to make a decision." Xue Shang looked at him expressionlessly. He shook his head and said, "Long Tian, you have already taken the initiative. Victory is within your grasp. Why do you have to ridicule me like this?" In the face of such obvious weakness, Ji Tianqing couldn't help but frown and ask, "What? This king has killed the left guardian and 3 elders of the Cheongqi clan. Are you not going to avenge them?" Xue Shang's expression was solemn as he said in a calm tone, "If it were some other small fry, I would naturally avenge my clan. But you are the dragon race's god king, your status is different. Our clan has always followed the lead of the dragon clan. Since ancient times, we have also worked hard for the dragon clan and made a lot of contributions. So, this king will not make an enemy of you." Ji Tianqing smiled and asked, "You are quite patient. You know how to stop your losses in time." Xue Shang said in a serious tone, "Of course, I just don't want to make an enemy of the dragon clan and cause a rift between our 2 clans. I am not afraid of you. No matter how many tricks you have up your sleeves, no matter how many divine abilities you have, I have my ancestors' indestructible golden body, so I am invincible. Although it is not a connate treasure, it is comparable to the primordial bell of chaos. It has protected our clan for tens of thousands of years without decline. Ji Tianqing looked at the indestructible golden body carefully and nodded, yes, this is true. Patriarch Qiong Qi's indestructible golden body is comparable to a Khanate treasure. If you insist on hiding in the indestructible golden body, this king can't do anything to you. He added in his heart, maybe, only when I reach the upper-level divine king or the burial of heaven sword is restored to the king level can I destroy Patriarch Qiong Qi's indestructible golden body. After a pause, he asked Xueshang, but have you thought about it? If you don't take revenge, how will you explain to your clansmen? Xueshang said expressionlessly, this is my fault. If I didn't covet the benefits promised by the Taotai clan and rashly agree to help, there wouldn't be such twists and turns. I will explain to my clansmen and ask for forgiveness, and take this as a warning. Tao Yongsheng, who was not far away, heard the conversation clearly. Seeing Xueshang admit defeat and retreat, he immediately glared at him and asked coldly, Xueshang. What do you mean? You actually admitted defeat and surrendered to him? Have you forgotten our agreement and the conditions that I promised you? Xueshang looked at him expressionlessly and said indifferently, this is the grudge between the Taotai clan and Long Tian. I am only here to help. How can I make a decision for you? Resist or admit defeat, it's all up to you. If you think it's inappropriate, then you go first. I will abide by the agreement. You. Tao Yongsheng was so angry that his eyes turned black. A mouthful of blood surged to his throat, but he could only swallow it back. Xueshang's meaning was clear. You started this. I am only here to help. If you can do it, then do it. However, Tao Yongsheng couldn't and didn't dare to do it. He almost sacrificed all the elites of the Taotai clan and still couldn't hurt Ji Tianqing, let alone take revenge. On the other hand, Ji Tianqing didn't even reveal his identity, background, or backing. He could defeat the Taotai clan single-handedly. Tao Yongsheng really didn't dare to make trouble. He was afraid that if he continued to be entangled, the entire Taotai clan would be reduced to ashes. At this time, Ji Tianqing looked at him and said expressionlessly, Tao Yongsheng, 10 breaths time is up. In other words, it's time for you to declare your position. Tao Yongsheng was silent. He lowered his head and endured the endless humiliation and anger. His body was trembling. After a long time, he slowly raised his head and looked at Ji Tianqing expressionlessly. He said in a dull tone, I, Tao Yongsheng, represent the Taotai clan to admit defeat and apologize to Long Tian. This matter was because the Taotai clan was greedy and tried to plunder Long Tian's dragon bloodline. It led to this series of tragedies. This is my clan's own fault. I apologize to Long Tian and admit my mistake. After saying that, he cupped his fists and bowed to Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and said calmly, yes, and the heavenly oath. Tao Yongsheng slowly straightened his body and endured the endless humiliation and anger. He looked up at the sky and closed his eyes. He said in a low and solemn voice, the heavenly Tao is above. The 35th clan leader of the Taotai clan, Tao Yongsheng, now swears to the heavenly Tao. Today's matter, the Taotai clan and Long Tian will be written off. The Taotai clan will never take revenge on Long Tian in the future. If there is a violation of this oath, the Taotai clan's bloodline will be severed and they will be reduced to ashes. As his voice fell, there seemed to be a feeling in the unseen above the 9 heavens. Lightning flashed above the sky, but it quickly returned to calmness. Clearly, the heavenly oath had been completed. After Tao Yongsheng finished swearing the oath with a trembling voice, 2 lines of blood tears actually gushed out of his eyes and slid down his aged cheeks. Chapter 36:52. Tao Yongsheng was forced to such a state. He was really disheartened and had nothing to live for. The Taotai clan had suffered a great loss, but he had to admit that he deserved it and was forced to swear that he would not take revenge. Xue Shang saw all this with his own eyes, and he could only sympathize with him. His heart was filled with sadness and helplessness. He believed that after the Taotai clan suffered such a blow, they would not be able to recover and fall into a trough. Even Tao Yongsheng's will and mental state would collapse, and his will would be depressed for a long time. It seemed that this was not a bad thing for the Cheongqi clan. They could take advantage of this opportunity to expand their territory and sphere of influence, and take over the resources controlled by the Taotai clan. This idea is not bad. I'll go back and think about it carefully. Xue Shang was thinking about these dirty things when Ji Tianqing's voice suddenly rang in his ears. Clan leader Xue Shang, it's your turn now. Xue Shang suddenly woke up and looked at Ji Tianqing in shock and anger. What do you mean? I've already admitted defeat and asked for peace. If we give each other a way out, won't it be over? You're so aggressive and pestering, what do you want to do? Seeing Xue Shang's unwilling face, Ji Tianqing pointed at Tao Yongsheng, who was still looking at the sky with his eyes closed, and said, like him, go through the formalities to make me feel at ease. Otherwise, I don't mind going to the Nebula Cave. You. Xue Shang almost couldn't help but curse. His whole face turned purple, and he was so angry that his lungs were surging. Just now, he was still sympathizing with Tao Yongsheng. He didn't expect that in the blink of an eye, it would be his turn. After being beaten so badly, he still had to apologize and swear to heaven that he would not take revenge. This was simply stepping on the Cheongqi clan's face like the bottom of a shoe. No one bullied people like this. Xue Shang's face was gloomy. He stared at Ji Tianqing angrily and said in a cold tone, Long Tian, my clan has no deep hatred with you. Why do you have to be so aggressive? You must know that if you don't go too far, it will be easier in the future. I took a step back, not because I'm afraid of you, don't force me to take action. Without waiting for him to finish, Ji Tianqing revealed a smile and said expectantly, that's good. This king was afraid that you wouldn't be willing to help. I'll kill you first and then destroy the Nebula Paradise. This is definitely a great deal. Xue Shang fell silent when he saw how eager and impatient he was. He finally understood that Ji Tianqing really hoped that he and Tao Yongsheng could be more unyielding and fight to the death. In this way, Ji Tianqing could justifiably kill the two of them, then wipe out the Taotai and Cheongqi clans and plunder their wealth. This guy was simply a lunatic. Xue Shang cursed in his heart. He really wanted to slap himself. At such a crucial moment, who cared about face and dignity? If they really fell out, the Cheongqi tribe would definitely be at a disadvantage. With this thought, Xue Shang could only imitate Tao Yongsheng and reveal a grief-stricken expression. He bowed to Ji Tianqing from afar and said in a low voice, Supreme being Long Tian, this king was deceived by Tao Yongsheng and lost my rationality due to greed. That's why I attacked you. Here, this king apologizes to you. Please forgive me. Ji Tianqing nodded and pointed to the sky. Continue. Xue Shang's heart was filled with grief and indignation. However, he could only endure the humiliation and close his eyes to look at the sky. His voice was low and trembling as he slowly recited, Heavenly Tao above, the 36th clan leader of the Cheongqi tribe, Xue Shang. When he recited the Heavenly Tao oath with a trembling voice like Tao Yongsheng, his entire body and hands trembled. It was not fear, but anger and humiliation. Extreme humiliation. This was definitely the most humiliating day in Xue Shang's life. Although he did not shed tears of blood like Tao Yongsheng. His grief-stricken expression was definitely from the bottom of his heart. After Xue Shang made the oath, Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and revealed a satisfied expression. Seeing that you are so sincere, this matter will end here. The two clan leaders put the overall situation first and endured humiliation to survive. It's really touching that you have sacrificed so much for your people. Xue Shang's face was twitching. He wished he could strangle Ji Tianqing to death. As for Tao Yongsheng, he was still looking up at the sky. The tears of blood on his face had not dried, and his entire person was like a stone statue. Obviously, he was still immersed in a spiritual world filled with endless grief and humiliation. He was unwilling to face reality and could not hear everything around him. To put it simply, he was autistic. Seeing Tao Yongsheng like this, Xue Shang sighed. Sigh, I can't count on this old fellow. I can only do it myself. Therefore, he looked at Ji Tianqing expressionlessly and asked, Long Tian, we have already made the heavenly Tao oath. The grudge between the two clans and you is over. You should also release the sword formation and let us leave, right? In addition, you have to give us the innate demon soul transference poison that we have been poisoned with. Unfortunately, before Xue Shang could finish speaking, Ji Tianqing turned and flew away. He floated away and passed through the light wall of the sword formation. He only left a sentence that echoed in the sky. You can break the sword formation yourselves. Antidote. When I studied this poison, I did not study the antidote at all. As his voice fell, his figure appeared at the top of the sword formation. He waved his hand, and hundreds of streams of light flew out from the lake around the sword formation. Swish! 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 With a wave of his sleeve, he collected the hundreds of streams of light and turned them into shooting stars that flew across the sky and quickly disappeared. Inside the sword formation, Xue Shang glared at Ji Tianqing's back and watched him disappear into the sky. He was so angry that he gritted his teeth. Ah! Damn thief, damn it! Break the sword formation by himself? This is a king-level sword formation. Even if I join forces with Tao Yongsheng, it will take at least 3 to 5 days to break it, right? What's more, Tao Yongsheng is muddle-headed now. How can I break it by myself? As for the antidote, who doesn't prepare the antidote when refining poison? Who are you lying to? Xue Shang roared in his heart, cursing and complaining crazily. But unfortunately, Ji Tianqing had already gone far away and could not hear him. After a long time, Xue Shang calmed down his surging anger and gradually calmed down. He put away Qiongqi's indestructible golden body and placed the right guardian in the divine artifact before flying toward Tao Yongsheng. Although there were still 20,000 giant swords flying and shuttling in the sword formation, they were still attacking. The power of the giant swords was obviously weakened. Xue Shang could resist them with the protective divine light, so his life was not in danger. Hey, old Tao, that kid has escaped. It's over. Xue Shang flew to the bloody light shield and stopped, calling Tao Yongsheng. However, Tao Yongsheng turned a deaf ear and still remained like a statue. Xue Shang could not help but frown and said angrily, Old Tao. That kid has already left. Stop pretending. Tao Yongsheng still did not respond. Xue Shang gradually became angry and said angrily, If you want to be a statue, then continue to be a statue. I'm going to find a way to break the formation and leave. By the way, the conditions and rewards you promised me cannot be less. Tao Yongsheng's body suddenly trembled, and he woke up. He stared at Xue Shang with burning eyes, his face ferocious, and said in a trembling voice, No. I can't just let it go. I have a way. We can take advantage of a loophole. Chapter 3653. Are you crazy? We just made a heavenly oath, and you still want to take revenge on him? Xue Shang looked at Tao Yongsheng in shock, and his expression was very interesting. After saying that, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. He frowned and said, I am talking to you nicely, and you are pretending to be a statue. When I mention the conditions and revenge, you quickly change the topic. Old Tao, I think you want to go back on your words, right? Tao Yongsheng completely ignored his words. He looked like he had gone mad. His face was ferocious, and his lips trembled as he said, although we were forced to make a heavenly oath, it was only a temporary measure. But that's only a temporary solution. We can think of another way. We have suffered such heavy losses and humiliation. Are we going to swallow it? No. Absolutely not. The Taotai clan has not suffered such setbacks and humiliation for tens of thousands of years since ancient times. I can't lose the face of my ancestors. No matter what, I can't take this lying down. I will definitely tear him into pieces and turn him into ashes. Seeing that he was full of bloody light and emotional, Xue Shang hurriedly waved his hand and persuaded, "Old Tao, calm down first. Listen to me, the Taotai clan has suffered heavy losses, and you have suffered so much. It is reasonable for you to lose control of your emotions. But look at me. Am I not the same as you, suffering heavy losses and losing face? But I won't be mad like you. I can still stay calm and collected." As he said that, Xue Shang patted his chest, and he looked like he wanted Tao Yongxing to learn from him. But how could Tao Yongxing listen? He was still immersed in a state of madness. His eyes were fierce, and he said in an emotional tone, "Xue Shang, although we made a heavenly oath, the two clans can't take revenge on him. But, we can take advantage of the loophole of the heavenly oath. Our clansmen won't take action against him, but we can ask others to do it." Xue Shang frowned and asked subconsciously, "Who do you want to ask?" Tao Yongxing said without hesitation, "First, we will ask more than 30 territories in the northern half of the continent. We will offer a huge reward in the name of the 10,000 Demon Alliance, and ask all the territory lords and divine king masters to kill that bastard. Second, we will contact the 10,000 Demon Alliance and ask their experts to help. Finally, we will go to the mysterious cave and ask the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor to seek justice and take revenge for us." Xue Shang was stunned. He frowned and asked hesitantly, "This is your idea and plan? Although it sounds feasible, what does it have to do with taking advantage of a loophole? Even if we don't use the name of the 10,000 Demon Alliance, aren't we still taking revenge on Long Tian?" Tao Yongxing's, and he said, his voice, "Of course, this is a loophole. We won't let the people of the two clans attack, including you and me. We're just borrowing a knife to kill them. But. But. Tao Yongxing's expression was solemn as he said in a low voice, "If we don't give it a try, who knows if it will work? In any case, I can't swallow this anger. I would rather die than endure such humiliation." "Of course not." Xue Shang answered without hesitation. However, after a moment of silence, he asked, "Let's not talk about asking the 10,000 Demon Alliance and the Domain Lords to help. You want to complain to the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor? Don't forget, Long Tian is also an expert of the dragon race. How can the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor help us fight against his own race?" Tao Yongxing sneered, "Ha. There are too many dragons in the dragon realm. They are like a piece of iron. Don't they have conflicts and kill each other? Although Long Tian is from the dragon race, we have never heard of his name. We have also never seen him in the mysterious cave. This means that he has nothing to do with the mysterious cave and the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. Long Tian is cruel and ruthless. He killed the people of the Qiong Qi and Taotai races and brought disaster to the Starsource continent. As the master of the Starsource continent, shouldn't the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor suppress the evil and restore peace to the continent?" Xue Shang hesitated for a moment and nodded, "What you said makes sense." Tao Yongxing quickly said in a serious tone, "If that's the case, then you agree with my plan. What are we waiting for? Why don't we hurry up and act? If we delay any longer, I'm afraid that kid will run away again." As he spoke, Tao Yongxing impatiently took out his communication jade slip and was about to send a message to the 1,000 Demon Alliance. "Wait. Xueshang finally realized that something was wrong and remembered something very important. He quickly stopped Tao Yongsheng and said in a serious tone, "Before we act, you have to give me an explanation. In order to help you kill Long Tian, I killed the left protector, 3 elders, and 38 elites of the blood slaughter hall. You have to fulfill the conditions and rewards you promised me first, right?" Tao Yongsheng was stunned for a moment. Anger flashed in his eyes. However, he suppressed his anger and said expressionlessly, "Xueshang, don't you trust me? Since I agreed to your conditions and revenge, I will fulfill my promise. However, this will have to wait until Long Tian is killed and we have avenged him." "That won't do." Xueshang refused and said with conviction, "My clan has sacrificed so much, and you haven't even given us a single divine stone so far. You have to pay 300 billion worth of ores first, so that I can use them to comfort my clan members and arrange the funeral of the left protector and the 3 elders. As for the other 2 conditions, I can be generous and give you some time." "You are looting a burning house." Tao Yongsheng glared at him and shouted angrily, "My clan's high priest and several elders have just died, and thousands of clan members and elites have just died. At this sad moment, as an ally of my clan, you not only don't understand and comfort us, but also take the opportunity to blackmail us, Xueshang. Has your conscience been eaten by a dog? I was really blind in the past to form an alliance with you and treat you as a reliable ally." Tao Yongsheng was extremely angry and emotional. His face was distorted, and his beard and hair were dancing violently. Seeing him like this, Xueshang quickly waved his hand and explained. However, he thought in his heart, this old man has been hiding from me before. I didn't expect that when Long Tian caused havoc in the star-devouring grotto heaven, he had already killed thousands of Taotai clansmen. No wonder Tao Yongsheng paid such a huge price to ask me for help. In this way, there are not many Taotai clansmen left, and their core forces have been severely damaged. Now, they are almost crippled. Even if I don't get any rewards, I can still take over their properties and plunder their wealth." Thinking of this, Xueshang sneered in his heart and gradually perfected the next plan. Chapter 36-54. After Xueshang's persuasion and explanation, Tao Yongsheng finally calmed down. The 2 of them haggled for a while. In the end, Tao Yongsheng paid 100 billion ores first and ended the dispute. Then, the 2 of them started to discuss how to get the 1,000 Demon Alliance and the 30-plus region masters to help. The regions in the northwest of the astral source continent were far away and were not as prosperous as the central regions. However, each region had 3 to 5 God King experts. The region masters and deputy region masters had the strength of a middle God King. If they could make use of these God Kings, they would be a force to be reckoned with. With the bounty in the name of the 1,000 Demon Alliance and the reputation of the Cheong Chi and Taotai clans, it would not be difficult to mobilize those God Kings. After all, the Cheong Chi and Taotai clans were very famous in the northwest of the astral source continent. What troubled Xueshang and Tao Yongsheng was how to get the 1,000 Demon Alliance to help. The 1,000 Demon Alliance was established more than 900 years ago and rose to prominence 500 years ago. The Alliance Master, Divine King Luo Ho, was said to be from another continent and was not a native of the astral source continent. This person's identity and background were mysterious, but he was very powerful. In the past 1,000 years, only 2 peak God Kings had appeared in the astral source continent and they were not weaker than the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. And Divine King Luo Ho was one of them. The 1,000 Demon Alliance was as its name suggested. It did not discriminate between races or bloodlines. As long as they met the requirements and passed the 1,000 Demon Alliance's test, they could join. Since ancient times, the difference between bloodlines was deeply ingrained in the hearts of demons. However, 99% of the ordinary demons hated it and were powerless to change it. Therefore, when the 1,000 Demon Alliance appeared, it caused a huge commotion in the astral source continent. Billions of demon experts cheered. Experts of the demon race from different species were eager to join the Myriad Demon Alliance and make contributions to the development of the Myriad Demon Alliance. In just a few hundred years, the Thousand Demon Alliance had become one of the top 3 factions in the Astral Source continent. Now, the Thousand Demon Alliance had more than 1 million members and 99% of them were heavenly gods and above. There were countless god monarchs and more than 100 god kings in the alliance. Even the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor of the mystical Grotto Heaven was wary of the Thousand Demon Alliance and did not dare to suppress or control them. Xueshang and Tao Yongsheng had met the upper echelons of the Thousand Demon Alliance and knew a few elders and protectors. However, this matter was of great importance. They felt that it was necessary to contact the Myriad Demon Alliance's Alliance Master, God King Luoho. However, they did not know God King Rahu, nor did they have God King Rahu's transmission jade slip. After discussing for a while, Xueshang and Tao Yongsheng unanimously decided to send a message to the Great Elder of the 10,000 Demon League to explain the matter. God Divine King Luoho was God. Therefore, Tao Yongsheng prepared to send a message to the Grand Elder of the Demon Alliance. Xueshang stretched out his hand to stop him. He frowned and said, "Old Tao, even if we want to plan this, can't we break this sword formation first? Inside the sword formation, you and I have to circulate our divine power at all times to resist the sword light's attack. Moreover, you and I have both been poisoned by the innate fiend soul transference poison, and the right protector is still circulating his energy to resist the poison. If we don't leave the sword formation soon, the poison will break out. Our lives will be in danger then." Tao Yongsheng was stunned. He looked at the sword light and nodded. "Okay. You're right. Let's break the sword formation first. But it's a king-grade god formation. You and I are not good at formations. I'm afraid it will take a long time to break it. Even if it takes a long time, we have to get out first." Xueshang was very anxious. He looked impatient. Tao Yongsheng could not fall out with Xueshang for the sake of his revenge plan. He could only endure his irritation and agree to break the formation first. Then, he put away the communication jade slip and worked with Xueshang to break the sword formation. The two flew hundreds of laps around the sword formation and used their secret arts to observe the structure of the sword formation. This was only the first step of breaking the sword formation, but it took them an entire day. Tao Yongsheng was impatient. He planned to let Xueshang observe the sword formation while he contacted the Thousand Demon Alliance. Fortunately, after a day, Xueshang finally understood the structure of the sword formation. Then, he and Tao Yongsheng worked hard to figure out how to break the formation. This was the second step of breaking the formation. It took them another 2 days. Tao Yongsheng became more and more anxious. He was exhausted. Fortunately, Xueshang thought of 3 ways to break the formation, and they all seemed to work. So, he pulled Tao Yongsheng and started to cast spells to break the formation. This was the third step of breaking the formation. It was the last step and also the most difficult step. The two of them tried their best and used all their skills. They spent 3 days, but still could not break the formation. Xueshang had tried all 3 methods, but none of them could be broken. Tao Yongsheng was angry. He proposed to activate the primordial chaos bell and Xiongqi ancestors' indestructible golden body to directly break the sword formation. Anyway, the power of the sword formation was gradually weakening. It was weaker than before. Xueshang could not persuade him and could only agree to this reckless decision. The two of them activated their clan treasures and attacked the sword formation with all their might. As a result, the sword formation shook violently. A loud sound shook the sky, and divine light burst out, but it did not break. The two of them attacked continuously for 2 hours. They were tired and panting, but they still could not break the sword formation. Tao Yongsheng gave up and said with a black face, "Xueshang, you continue to study the way to break the formation. I will send a message to the Demon Alliance. 6 days have passed. This matter cannot be delayed any longer. After that, he completely ignored Xue Shang's advice. He hid under the protection of the primordial chaos bell and sent a message to the Demon Alliance. Xue Shang could only fight alone and continue to think of a way to break the formation. Tao Yongxing carefully and tactfully expressed his thoughts. Then, he entered a message into the jade slip. He checked twice to make sure that it would not cause a misunderstanding or anger the Demon Alliance. Only then did he send out the jade slip. Next, he waited patiently. He did not know whether the Great Elder of the Demon Alliance was busy or discussing with someone. After a full 4 hours, the Great Elder of the Demon Alliance sent back a message. Patriarchs Yongsheng and Xue Shang, I deeply sympathize with the difficulties and losses of the two clans. In the sphere of influence of the Demon Alliance, such a cruel and vicious person appeared. Even if he is a descendant of the Dragon Clan, we cannot tolerate it. Although our Alliance Master is in seclusion, I will not disturb him for such a small matter. But I can decide this matter based on the discussion between me and the elders. However, the Demon Alliance has its own rules. We will never interfere in the grievances of other forces and powerhouses. Even if you put up a bounty in the name of the Demon Alliance, it will damage the reputation of the Demon Alliance. But for the sake of the cooperation between the two patriarchs and me many times, I can make the decision to give you some face. Chapter 3655. Ba. Hu Xinyue, this be *tch. She said it in such a dignified way. Isn't she just asking for a sky-high price? After reading the jade slip, Tao Yongxing was so angry that his face turned purple, and he couldn't help but curse. Xue Shang, who was thinking hard about the way to break the array, was awakened by him and couldn't help curling his lips. He. The 10,000 Demon Alliance is not the Relief Society. It is also a ruthless organization. You said you wanted to ask the 1,000 Demon Alliance for help before, and I knew it was not reliable. Tao Yongxing turned his head and glared at him, and said with a black face, I will take care of this matter. You just need to break the sword array. The implication was to let Xue Shang mind his own business. Xue Shang shrugged and sneered, okay, I will only break the array. You negotiate with the 1,000 Demon Alliance. No matter what the result is, it is your business. I am just helping you. Tao Yongxing's body stiffened, and he asked with a black face, Xue Shang, what do you mean? Do you mean that my Tao Tai clan has to fulfill all the conditions of the 1,000 Demon Alliance? Otherwise? Xue Shang spread out his hands and asked, do you want me to pay? Tao Yongxing was so angry that his whole body trembled, and he scolded, Xue Shang. Do you have any shame? Is this revenge for me? This is about your and my dignity, the face of the Tao Tai clan and the Qiongqi clan. Since it is revenge for our two clans, of course we have to pay together. Xue Shang waved his hand and said indifferently, don't drag me into this. The biggest loss and the most humiliating is you and the Tao Tai clan. I don't care. I am willing to help you because of the conditions you agreed to. If you want me to pay, then I would rather not take revenge. You. Tao Yongxing was so angry that he pointed at Xue Shang with trembling fingers, but he couldn't say a word. At this moment, he finally saw the true face of Xue Shang. He secretly swore in his heart that from now on, he would cut off contact with the Qiongqi clan and would never help each other again. Especially Xue Shang, he must cut off all ties. At this time, Xue Shang sneered in his heart. Huh, the trouble you caused me so much trouble, and you still want to drag me down. For the sake of our past relationship, I won't fall out with you for now. After this is over, let's see how I'll take your territory and resources. In the future, the star-devouring paradise will be mine. Previously, the two of them appeared to be united on the surface but were actually divided at heart. Now, they were completely at odds with each other. Fortunately, the two of them still restrained themselves and did not shed all pretenses of cordiality. They both kept silent and went about their business. 2 hours later, Xueshang finally figured out the correct way to break it. With the help of Patriarch Qiong Qi's indestructible golden body, he began to break the heaven-destroying sword formation. 4 hours later, Tao Yongsheng and Hu Xinyue had negotiated many times and finally reached an agreement. He had to pay 400 billion in minerals and 9-star swallowing flowers before Hu Xinyue agreed to offer a high bounty in the name of the 10,000 Demon Alliance. Of course, Tao Yongsheng had to pay for the astronomical treasures and resources required for the bounty himself. Hu Xinyue suggested that he take out 2 king-grade high-grade divine artifacts and 50 billion worth of ores as a reward. This was the only way to attract the godly kings of more than 30 domains and the experts of the Myriad Demon Alliance. Moreover, any participant who could provide clues and help would receive a reward worth 5 billion. This was the only way to fully mobilize the enthusiasm of the participants and ensure that the interception mission would be completed as soon as possible. In addition, the Myriad Demon Alliance would not send any experts to help Tao Yongsheng carry out the interception mission. It was not that the Myriad Demon Alliance did not want to accept the mission, but Tao Yongsheng could not afford it. Of course, if the godly kings of the Myriad Demon Alliance wanted to participate in the mission voluntarily, it would be a different matter. When this condition was agreed, Tao Yongsheng's expression was wooden and his voice was trembling as he agreed. His heart was bleeding and he could not breathe. He held the communication jade slip in his hand and closed his eyes to look at the sky. He murmured with a miserable expression, "It's just a sky-high bounty in the name of the Myriad Demon Alliance. I actually have to spend 600 billion to get the permission of the Myriad Demon Alliance. The reward for the bounty will cost at least 200 billion, even if I can successfully kill Long Tian, I will have to spend 800 billion. The Taotai clan was already in such a miserable state. Could they withstand such torment? Tao Yongsheng calculated silently. This time, he had to empty the Taotai clan's treasury at least. He even had to dig up 7 or 8 mineral veins to plug this hole. This was bound to make the already miserable Taotai clan even worse. They would be completely dispirited and unable to recover. After taking a deep breath, Tao Yongsheng thought of the even more outrageous price and could not help but roar, "The Myriad Demon Alliance is one of the top 3 super forces in the continent. You actually asked for 2 trillion just to kill a high-level godly king of the Dragon Clan? Hu Xinyue. Why don't you King Rob?" Not far away, Xueshang, who was focused on breaking the sword array, heard his sorrowful roar and could not help but twitch the corner of his mouth and laugh secretly. Ha! This old man is so angry that he has lost his mind. You can continue to act. Soon, the Taotai clan's foundation will be emptied. When the time comes, I'll see how you clean up the mess. Although the star-devouring cave was rich in mineral resources and had a unique environmental advantage, it had nurtured many star mineral veins. Those star mineral veins could not be grown in hundreds or thousands of years. A mature star mineral vein that was worth hundreds of billions usually needed 3,000 to 5,000 years to grow. The previous clan leaders of the Taotai clan were not good at management and financial management. Basically, they had been losing money. Although the star-devouring cave had many mineral veins, after thousands of years of losses, the number had been decreasing. Xueshang estimated that in the star-devouring cave, there were only 60 to 70 mineral veins left. That was the limit. Thinking of this, he suddenly thought of a problem and suddenly felt a little distressed. Tao Yongsheng has gone mad with anger. He did not care about the long-term plans of the future. He did not hesitate to pay a huge price to take revenge. If he loses all the mineral veins in the star-devouring cave, even if I rob the star-devouring cave in the future, won't it be a desert? Starting from scratch, from nothing to something, won't I have to wait thousands of years for a new mineral vein to be born? Thinking of this, Xueshang suddenly felt his chest tighten. His eyes were full of hatred as he looked at Tao Yongsheng. After leaving the gushing sun lake, Ji Tianxing continued to fly north. He thought that since Xueshang and Tao Yongsheng had both made the heavenly oath, this grudge was considered to be over. Next, he continued to rush to the Golden Rock Clan's 9 mystical cave. It should be very smooth. The sword of burial of heaven flew high in the sky. He entered the sword world again and returned to the distorted spacetime to deal with the spoils of war. He was very satisfied with the result of the battle at the gushing sun lake. Fortunately, he had broken through before the battle and reached the 6th level of the Divine King realm. His strength had increased by 6 to 7 times. In addition, he had set up the sky-destroying sword formation in advance and the heaven-killing soul transference that he had carefully prepared. Only then could he catch Xueshang and Tao Yongsheng off guard and completely suppress them. The gains of this battle were basically in line with his expectations. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.